TRG Radio.
I made what did I make? I made Corneria in Minecraft yesterday.
Oh my god. I take it back. I said I'm geekier than you fucks. I'm wrong. I'm just fucking wrong. Like,
yeah, dude, I downloaded like all of the Dungeons and Dragons books today. I've got like everything from, like 91 to like 99, bro.
welcome to TRG Radio, episode number 6. With us always are your hosts. I am Matt, and this is Carl.
Hey guys, what's going on?
And we got Jeph with the PH back here again.
Heyo.
And I decided after 5 episodes of trying to say something funny and falling flat on my face, I was not going to do that in our opening. So you guys are spared that horrible episode or something. Anyways, all right, I do have to apologize from the outset for the delay. I have been working my ass off on covering E3 and playing Final Fantasy XIV and The Last of Us for a review. I also took a couple hours of free time to be lazy yesterday, which I wasn't actually that lazy during, but anyway, I needed it. I was working nonstop last week, well, working in air quotes, watching everything I could find on E3 and covering as much of it as I could too. You guys can see those articles on our main page, our news page. I reviewed 6 different companies and their performances, and we had a couple other articles one from Walter, I believe, and I don't remember if anybody else did one. Sorry, my brain is kind of fractured at the moment. So, yeah, at the moment, not always.
Yeah, the only thing I put on there for E3 was my favorite trailers from the first day, and I was going to do it for the other 2, but it seemed like the first day for trailers for games for me were like really like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening. Except for Final Fantasy XV trash, but I'll talk about that later.
Yes, we will. So, after all of that, that was my long-winded excuse for why we're doing this show on Monday, and it'll probably be up tomorrow, which will be Tuesday. But we will still be back on Friday for our show, as always, at the normal time, so look for that on Saturday. Today we'll be talking about E3, of course, giving our Best in Show awards where we can. We'll also dive back into some DRM talk, since Microsoft and Sony have clarified their position on that subject a little bit. We'll talk a little bit more about E3 after that. Then after the break, we'll be welcoming Neil back for a little discussion about The Last of Us. Me and him are the ones who have kind of dove headfirst into that game. I think he's actually played it a little more than I have so far. But that's so he'll be talking a little bit about that with us. And after that, we'll round things out with Final Fantasy XIV closed beta for PS3 and PC, apparently, since Carl has the PC version. And we'll talk about that for a little bit. And as always, we'll have some site news to round it all up. If you haven't listened all the way through to the end of the podcast to our site news, you might want to stick around because we tend to get a little bit looser, and it's not just boring site news. We get kind of stupid. So it's anything but a boring segment. But without further ado, today we are going to be skipping what we've been playing, because I don't know why. Because we don't have time. And really, there's only been a few things that have been played, and I didn't do a whole lot of gaming last week anyways. Unless you guys want, you know what? I'm going to scratch that. We are winging this. What have you guys been playing?
I'll go first. I've been doing, I recently got a new computer, so, bigger on the computer games now, because I haven't given it a lot of attention. But I pulled probably about a 19-hour marathon on Spore, so I can get a review up tomorrow for you guys. But I got through all the stages and slowly taken over the galaxy. And that game's really awesome. I'm not sure what the deal is with the online servers, but I've had a hard time connecting that way, so I've been offline. But it's still really addicting. And then
let me ask you a question about Spore. Is that by Maxis? I know somebody from Maxis has worked on it or something. It's just my own curiosity.
I think it is Maxis, because it goes through EA Games, and all the related games are like Sims and stuff, so I guess it's safe to assume that it's like Maxis had some type of hand in it. Yeah. But then after that, I got into Terraria a little bit today with a friend of mine
Carl. Carl, come in, Carl. Where'd you go, Carl?
But you can... Huh?
You just muted for a second.
Oh, am I back?
You are.
Okay, so it plays like The Legend of Zelda or Secrets of Mana, and you can build up like fortresses and stuff like that. At night, you have to survive zombie attacks, which, I mean, if you have a good fort, you don't have to worry about it as much. But it's a really cool game. I'm going to put a review up on that probably on Wednesday this week. And then that's about it, other than the usual Tekken Tag and Tekken Revolution, which is probably one of the best free-to-play games I've seen on PlayStation Network in a long time. And I think you're going to see a lot of companies follow suit with that.
Yeah, I want to pitch 2 cents in about that too. I played Tekken Revolution, and one thing I like, there are some mechanics that I wasn't quite used to because Tekken has evolved over the years, but it really did feel like an old school Tekken game more so than any of the other recent ones that I've played. So I thought that was really cool. I don't know if that has anything to do with your positive score, but I did like that.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing with the score, I believe I gave it a 9 out of 10. And with the price tag, and I reviewed it as a full game, not like something you get free for PlayStation Plus or things like that. And that's a 9 full, but if it was just taking into consideration that it was free to play and that it was a smaller download, I would have given it a 10 out of 10. But the fighting mechanics are more like traditional Tekken, like from Tekken 5. There's none of those crazy bounds where like you wonder why you're still lifted up off the ground and get juggled. It's really old school. It's nice. And that's about it for me. How about you, Jeph? What have you been doing?
Well, let's see. I dipped into Final Fantasy XIV for a minute, but we're going to talk about that later, so I'll save that for another time. The other game I started playing it's a small indie game I found on Steam called To the Moon, and I really actually like it. I'll put a spoiler alert here, although I don't think I need to, because it's everything you look for on the game. It gives you the sort of premise for it, because the premise is what makes it cool, but the whole idea is that there's doctors, 2 in the game anyways, and if you're on your deathbed or if you think you're going to die, you can hire them, and what they do is they go back through all your memories, and you give them one wish, something you wish you could accomplish, and they help rearrange events so that happens. And then that person goes through their whole life again, leading to they want to happen. And in this game, the guy wishes that he could have gone to the moon. So the doctors come by and hook it all up. And I haven't really gotten that far yet. I just got to the point where he says, I want to go to the moon. But it's really interesting so far. And it's a plot that like I've never seen before in a game.
Why were you playing that game? Did somebody suggest it for you? I've never heard of it.
Actually, I was just on Steam and I just looked at RPGs. And it was like only $10 or something. And I think I did a Google search for like good indie RPGs because I was on a kick for a minute. Just wanted to see what good ones we could get. And you can get it with the soundtrack too, and it has like an awesome soundtrack. But it's a really neat game.
What kind of graphics does it have? Like kind of modern or no?
It's SNES, but it's like a really cleaned up, sharp SNES. It's got the 2D and all that, but it's like really nice looking.
So it's like ZSNES games.
Yeah, something like that. It's really neat. Not a lot of fighting. It's mostly story based, but it's still really cool.
Anything else you've been playing?
That's pretty much it for the moment. Just those 2.
Well, me personally, I touched on when Tekken Revolution dropped. I downloaded it. I did it in between. I believe it dropped Tuesday, right? So in between 1,000 streams that I was watching that day for E3, I went ahead, downloaded that, gave it, I'd say maybe an hour and a half of play, and it was a good time. So I touched on Tekken Revolution. Then I didn't play squat all week long until Friday when The Last of Us came out, and because my game stopped, and since I live near the desert and the population out here isn't what it is over closer to LA where I used to live, they didn't have a midnight release, so I had to wait till 10 a.m. that specific time. So the East Coast already had it for 3 hours. I finally put the game in probably 10:30ish. I was second in line, thank God, so I did get it. So I've been playing The Last of Us, but I only played that for a few hours because then I found out FF14 beta hit, and I jumped all over that, and that was my weekend right there. I was playing FF14 beta. So my Last of Us review, which I hoped to get out today or tomorrow. Ain't gonna happen because I just really started getting into it today. So be looking for that review. Hopefully by Friday, and when the beta opens back up, we'll talk more about that later. Other than that, I haven't been playing squat. So next week is going to be my what we're playing a little bit more in depth, I guess, because I can't really spoil anything in The Last of Us, or I don't want to, anyways. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's where we're at with what we've been playing, I guess. But I guess we'll just dive right into it, into the core show that I like to call it. I wanted to get some picks for our best in show to start things off for E3. Or this is going to be our E3 segment, and our best in show is more like the thing that struck us the most out of E3. Like when we think E3 2013, bam, what hits your head? That's kind of how the angle I want to take on this. Since most of us couldn't sit down and watch everything. I personally did, but I mean, that was, I'm not joking, like 36 hours of streams that I watched in a 3-day period. It was crazy. So I kind of saw everything, but I'd like for us all to kind of just give our reaction on what things stood out the most for us. So I guess I'll go ahead and start with you guys. How about Jeph? Jeph, what would you give your best in show? Now remember, this isn't an award. It's just what's that thing that stood out to you about E3, I guess?
I think the thing that stood out to me about E3 was probably Kingdom Hearts 3, actually. Even though I didn't see a lot of it, I'm like a big Kingdom Hearts fan. I guess it stems because I like Final Fantasy and I love Disney. And I think it stuck out to me even more because it was like a diamond in like a big pile of crap is what it looked like to me, because everything else Square Enix showed, I hated. I hated everything else Square Enix did at E3.
I disagree.
Except for show off Kingdom Hearts 3. Especially Final Fantasy versus 15-3 or whatever the hell they want to call that game now. That really upset me. But I'll stray from that because we're trying to stay positive here and talk about what was good at E3, right?
Right.
So I'm going to say Kingdom Hearts 3. I hope they have a Dumbo level. That would be cool. So I'm excited for Kingdom Hearts 3.
How about you, Carl?
For me, my opinion differs a little bit from Jeph. I liked the Final Fantasy XIII 3 trailer with Lightning. I'm a huge Lightning fan and everything, but after watching the gameplay footage at E3 and then the actual trailer that was released on the Sony press release, like I'm totally sold on it. Like they follow the battle system to a T from the DLC for 13.2, and it looks like they made Lightning a badass. And from just the trailers and stuff, you see she's tracing and ghosting Snow, trying to figure out what he's up to, and then she ends up getting into a fight with Noel, or Noel, whichever way you want to say it. And it looked really cool. And then other than that, no DRM from Sony was probably the biggest thing for me, which was good. Like the heroes of gaming, in my opinion. Between that and their like huge support for indie gamers, and then like they're even investing into the studios to provide for them. So like not only are they saying, hey, you can develop and publish your own games, but we're going to give you the funding for some of it as well. So that was really cool to know that they're doing that. But just like Jeph, my least favorite thing that was even announced was that Final Fantasy 15, 13 versus 3 or whatever the fuck they want to call it, because that was just disappointing. It seems like they're half-assing again like they did when 14 first came out.
Yes.
Oh, maybe we'll mix things up a little bit, because I would like to shout my vehement disagreement with that. While it is kind of disturbing that they scrapped the name Versus 13, it looks like they kept the game intact, and that thing's been in development for so many years that it's got. I can only assume that they've been working their asses off on it, and then just decided, you know what, we put so much time and money into this thing, we've got to put it as a full release. So it's a little bit of a marketing ploy on their part, but I don't think they're going to service up crap with it. And from what I've seen, my favorite part was of one of the trailers I saw. 3 guys fighting this dude with a giant sword. One guy has a Buster Sword. One of the protagonists, it appears, has a Buster Sword, and he's slashing the hell out of this guy. Then the other guy, who's way bigger than him with a way bigger sword, hits him, he blocks it, steals his sword, and two of them lift the sword and hit him back with it. I mean, that's classic Square. I almost called them Squaresoft. That's classic Square Enix, and they're really good cutscenes, and you know their cutscenes seem to be very much anime based, I guess you could say. They really feel like anime and the action, anyways. And I thought that was really cool. But as a whole, I liked what Final Fantasy 15 looks like. I don't like. I will agree that I don't like that they changed it up from versus 13, but I understand, and I'm still excited for the game.
And me as like a fan for Square Enix, like I'm a big SquareSoft fan. Not so much the Enix side. I wasn't big into Dragon Quest and stuff, but it doesn't feel to me like I'm all cool with it. I'm doing like sides, like you had Dirge Cerberus or whatever they pronounce it for 7, like a first-person shooter, but it was a side. Final Fantasy 15 looks, at least from the gameplay, very similar to Crisis Core. And if it's more of a hack and slash RPG, is it really worthy enough to be an entry to a new chapter in Final Fantasy? Like, and it makes me wonder. They spent all that time writing a storyline for it being 13 verses, for it to be established in this Crystallis realm, and now they're going to open up Final Fantasy 15, a new entry that doesn't have the solid RPG mechanics of any of the other solid number entries. To me, as a fanboy, and I'll say I'm a fanboy, that's really disappointing to me.
Yeah, I feel like each new number needs to be like a whole new universe too. And if you want to get onto that, then you do the thing where you just tack other numbers or put verses onto it. But you can't just call it 15 unless you're going to be introducing an entirely new world. And it just looks like Devil May Cry or something from the gameplay, which just doesn't scream Final Fantasy to me.
Yeah, well, I'll have to see how it turns out. Like I said, I'm excited for it, but you guys are right. It does look a lot more action-based. It looks like they're going to get rid of ATB, which is kind of a huge departure because they've never not had ATB since it was introduced for a full numbered entry anyways. So that it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I hear you guys as a diehard Square fan myself too. That those kind of things do tickle the side of my brain that says I don't know. You know, my skepticism is there, but I support what Square does with their full numbered entries. Every numbered entry they put in, and I'm one of the minority who thinks this, but all their numbered entries have been just fantastic. So I expect the same from this next one. Nothing else to say?
No, that's about it for me. Just disappointed in that aspect.
Yeah, we're sad.
Well,
Jeph and Carl sad.
I'll go into my best to show a little bit. I'll add to what Carl was saying. I mean, me and Carl, we weren't voice chatting on Skype, but we were on Skype, you know, texting back and forth because that's my IM service of choice, and that's what I use. So we were texting back and forth, and we were watching the Sony conference live, and I am not at all surprised by the ovation that they received when they said no DRM. I mean, the way Jack Tretton expressed it was just perfect. He nailed it, hardcore. I mean, he said, all right, we're not doing what they're doing, and he let the applause go, and let it die down a little bit, you know, and then threw out another bullet point that made people cheer again. I mean, he did that like 4 times. It was fantastic, and I was on Skype with Carl, I was out of my mind. Like, I couldn't believe it. I don't know if I've said this on a podcast before, but I have discussed this with other people. I fully thought there's no way Microsoft could be implementing what they're doing without knowing that Sony was going to do it too. And I just thought that Sony was going to, you know, maybe a little bit of a scaled down, not so, you know, in your face, I'm watching you sort of way with their DRM, but I thought that they would have something to that effect, you know, and they didn't. They just totally shoved it all in basically Microsoft's face. I mean, he even made a couple stabs at Microsoft, and I was out of my mind. I was excited, and then they announced the price point, and that just sent everything over the edge. Like, are you kidding me? You're doing this and $100 cheaper? Holy shit! I mean, gaming is graced by that little episode that Sony did. It really is, and a lot of people are saying they really didn't do anything. And you know what? That's true. They didn't change anything, but I think that's the point. I think they really nailed home that, you know what, gaming is what it is, and we are here, and we are about gaming. So here you go, gamers. We're not changing shit. Enjoy. And I think everybody's just going to enjoy it. So that was my highlight of the show.
I think a couple things, just to elaborate on the whole Sony show, is there's a couple little hidden whispers that, like, you know, he I always call them like the breadcrumb trail right before you get the loaf. But in between those four like zing 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 zings that he just sent the crowd roaring, you know. He mentioned that PlayStation Plus for you to be in online, and it was worded very different. For you to play multiplayer, you will have to have PlayStation Plus, which isn't a big deal. I mean, even for me, like $4.99 a month, you pay like $50 for a year. That's worth it. But he said he tacks on a free full game every month. It's not just subscription; it's a month, which is huge. And then on top of that, something that a lot of people didn't notice is that they were listening to the fans and they're getting the cross game chat in there. And Skype's not going to be an Xbox exclusive. He also said that, you know, it already looks great on the Vita. I have it for the Vita as well. But he said it will be on PlayStation 4 too. Even if Microsoft buys them out, they're going to still have that app for your PlayStation 4. So it's not going to be like monopolized for one console.
I wonder how that's going to be integrated, though. If it's going to be, because I know on Xbox One, it's very clearly Skype is going to be a huge part of their. I think that's what they're going to use, that client, for their cross-game chat, which I think is a great idea. They should do that, as long as it doesn't have the... I don't know. Well, I take that back. If Skype improves on their I don't know how to call it, the voice overlay. Like I was just telling you before the show started, Carl, that sometimes when you talk, it's a little, the beginnings of your sentences are a little broken up. That's a normal Skype thing. That's with almost any Skype call, and if that's going to be their cross-game chat, that's going to be a little bit annoying.
Oh yeah, you're talking about voice over internet protocol?
No, not well. I guess
Skype is a VoIP service.
Right, and I don't know. I don't want to pretend I'm a tech geek enough to know about that. But
I will. I will for you. I used to work for Vonage, which was like a huge VoIP company that does house for landlines. But yeah, that's exactly what Skype is. It's a VoIP service.
Yeah. So whatever they're doing with their VoIP, I guess, maybe is what's causing those slight annoyances. So I'm not sure. But if Skype is on PS4, I don't think, they're going to be using that for their main, cross-game chat. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. Everything's still up in the air. I mean, even after all these announcements, there are still a lot of questions. So we'll see how all this is going to play out. One thing I did want to mention, though, you reminded me that Sony's game streaming and their quote-unquote DVR, their GDR, gamer, I don't know, GDVR, I'll call it, is going to be Ustream. And of course, their live streaming will be using that too. But I guess a CEO from Twitch went on record and said, yeah, our deal with Microsoft isn't an exclusive one. So he kind of left that open-ended. So those of you nervous that the big dog Twitch for video game streaming isn't going to be available on PS4, it looks like it probably will.
Even if it's not, I mean, if you're somebody either working in the industry or you're just like an avid game fan, have great footage, and you're really good at what you do, your game captures will carry on, and it'll actually, for the first time, if you're a PlayStation user, allow you to do 1080i in. I don't think 1080p, but it'll go up to 1080i. And the reason that they blocked it on the PlayStation 3 was because of the Blu-ray drive. They didn't want you able to record whatever you were watching on your PlayStation and then burn ISO files off of it, which I guess some people were doing, and they could do the same thing with Netflix. But they found a way to block through that, so you won't have to worry. You can do all HDMI, not the AVIs in or multi-SCART anymore.
Yeah, I think that right there is a testament to how the video pirating. I don't know. It was on the rise for a long time, but I think it's kind of backed off a little bit. It's still out there, so people are still. Their companies obviously are still worried about you pirating their stuff and throwing it on a torrent site, but I don't think it's as big of a deal anymore. I guess because the sales are up for all the videos. I don't know. Here I go trying to pretend like I know shit about that industry, but I don't.
I think if you look more into it, I think the reason that they're kind of slimming down is that it's so convenient to have like Hulu, Vudu, Netflix, Amazon Instant Video. People are paying like $12 for a bootleg video that had just come out. I personally never did because I thought all the quality was shit. Why would I pay like full price for a movie that's just like off a camera phone? But people are only going to have to pay like $8 to $10 a month for all the movies they can watch. They're not going to want to pirate it anymore because it just costs too much money to get involved in it.
Right. True. Yeah, that's I hadn't even thought about that. That's a good answer to pirating. Once all the new tech catches on, make it too cheap to really matter, and people won't bother with it. Huh.
Yep, and I mean the money goes to the stream service and the companies that produce the movie So I mean, it's a win-win for everybody.
What were you going to say, Jeph?
I said the answer to piracy is to make it affordable.
Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Yeah, that seems to have worked out pretty good. And I guess okay, so that talk about that is done. I want to talk a little bit more about the Microsoft and Sony DRM, because in the days during E3 and even following E3, Microsoft has clarified their position, and so has Sony. To be clear, Microsoft is leaving DRM up to the publishers. That has been known. Sony is also doing that, but Sony took it a step further and said, yeah, but our first parties are not going to have any DRM. As a matter of fact, we're also not going to be doing online passes. And then EA jumped on board and said, yeah, we're done with online passes too. So, I mean, it looks like Sony is really pioneering this whole next-gen movement to just get rid of all that crap. I mean, it exists now. I had to put in a code for my Last of Us online pass, and if you're going to buy The Last of Us Used, you will have to purchase a $10 online pass in order to play the multiplayer. And that's multiplayer only, mind you. But I also heard, and I have not had time to confirm this, but The Last of Us will be the last game on PS3 with an online pass. I don't know if that's true. That's just something I read in a couple places, and it's just word of mouth, so don't take my word for it. But it makes sense. I mean, they're transitioning to, all right, let's get rid of this online pass. We'll make you pay, if you want to play video games online, we'll make you pay the, what is it, $4 and something cents per month for a year on PlayStation Plus in order to play your games online. But along with that, you get PS Plus. And I think I've said this before on the podcast. Anybody who has ever tried PS Plus knows that it's a freaking fantastic service, and you're getting your money's worth even without, even with being able to play online for free. Well, now it's tacked on to PS Plus, but I don't think you'll be hurt at all over that.
Even to add on to that, I mean, if you've tried PlayStation Plus, you probably still have PlayStation Plus. And I think, just to elaborate one more time, PlayStation Home, right after the E3 event for Sony, was giving away anywhere from a month to 6 months free PlayStation Plus to get people hooked on it. And I think that was a great marketing scam.
Yeah, it worked for me. The reason I picked up PlayStation Plus is somebody, I don't remember what promotion it was a couple of years ago. It was maybe a few months after they introduced PlayStation Plus. There was some promotion, hey, get it for free for a month. So I tried it for a month, and I was like, okay, this is cool. So I tried it for another month, and then another month. And by the time I realized that every week they're giving you new free games just about. I mean, not every week, but two to 3 weeks out of a month, they're introducing new free games to play. And even lately, especially lately, they're releasing free games that are came out just a few months ago, which is insane. Like, you're getting it for free now. Like, what? Seriously? And it's a great service. I guess that's what I'm trying to say there.
The one thing, we were talking up Sony a lot, but Microsoft did do a movement, and a lot of people haven't covered it, but I had read from their site directly that their Microsoft achievement points, the stuff that they win through the arcades and just achievement points and stuff, when they switch to Xbox One Live, depending on how high your score is, it actually turns over to a monetary value for their new store. So, if you're an achievement whore, is what I call it. I'm a trophy whore. I collect trophies, and I'll do anything for it. But, they'll be able to purchase games for the achievements they got on their previous console, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is a good idea for transferring to the next generation. So it goes without saying that they're going to keep the achievement, or your Xbox Live account is going to transfer over, and PSN's doing the same thing. So, but it's cool to have that little plus. It reminds me a little bit of something Sony's doing, and like you said, we're talking up Sony a lot, but I mean, there's a lot to talk up. I'm going to go off on a tangent real quick. For years, I mean, the buzz has always been about, at least in America, how great Microsoft is. But I've just been watching what Sony's been doing these last few years, and it's all been leading to this. It's like, yeah, we've been doing that. Yeah, for example, Microsoft's answer to their inability to trade games is, all right, well, now you can let a friend borrow the digital version of the game, and then they can download it to their system. As long as they're on a relative or family list, they can play it, but only one person at a time can play it. But that's something Sony's already been doing. They're allowing you to share on Microsoft's end. You're allowed to share between 10 family members, put them on your list, and you can share with them. Well, PlayStation, you can do that with 5 already. So I wonder if that's going to change next gen. But anyway,
well, it's a little better the way that they're doing it now. Sorry to cut you off, but you can have it's not family members. It's actually close friends or relatives. So like your best friends as well, and you can register up to 10 devices, whether it's your Blu-ray devices if you just want to share your Netflix unlimited, or music unlimited, whatever the hell it is, video unlimited too, or your console gaming. But the one thing that makes it better is that you can do it and still be able to play at the same time. They're not restricting you to just, oh, well, this guy wants to play co-op with his friend or his best friend or his family member, and now he can't because one guy can only have the game open at once. They don't do that. Once it's downloaded, it's theirs as long as that person remains an active member in the PlayStation community, or if it's a Plus game. It even works for Plus games. As long as the one user stays a Plus member, all the other ones will be active.
All right, and here's another thing about Hearsay. Microsoft, it sounds very similar to what Microsoft's doing, but I heard that if they're on that list for Xbox Live, you won't be able to play it at the same time. Like, the idea is, all right, I'm lending this game to a friend. All right, you can do that free of charge. Remember, keep in mind, every 24 hours, they're still checking both systems to make sure you are legit and all that. So as long as you're lending the game, I guess only the person who you lent it to can play it. Are you saying that Sony's different?
The only thing that was different was I know for a fact that me and my best friend, I consider him a brother of mine, but we have Dead or Alive 5. We both downloaded it from my account, and family friend and everything. But we can play at the same time. Like, it doesn't matter. I open up my digital copy, he opens up his, and we can end up fighting each other, which is really cool.
Yeah. And this is, once again, it's just hearsay. I have not been able to confirm this, but it sounds like Microsoft, for Xbox One, is going to let you do that, something similar, but won't be able to play it at the same time. I don't know if that's true, so don't quote me on it. But if that is true, that's just one more thing that Sony's got a leg up on. So, I don't know. That was the next point I wanted to talk about is Microsoft's DRM. It still exists, and I hate to do this because I'm trying to be the Microsoft apologist here, and it's just getting harder and harder over time because it seems like they're just misstepping left and right. And
well, just to go off to something, actually from their E3 conference, and it might have been right after, but one of the bigwigs from Microsoft said DRM's here to stay, things are changing, deal with it. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think they really need apologist because at that point, and I keep saying, and I said it to you guys when we were working on our third podcast, that the third entry of anything, whether it's a movie, a console, a website, anything, is the pinnacle to either are you going to make it or break it. And this is Microsoft's third console, and, in the living room people are playing. But everybody can look at Sony from PS3 where they said, yeah, our console is going to cost, I think it was, $600 or $599.99 or some shit in the United States, and they said, yeah, it's expensive, but just pick up a second job. It always seems like the companies are non-apologetic because they just think their shit doesn't stink.
Yeah, and that goes off what I was about to say anyways. That, I mean, even like I said, going through the last few years, paying attention to what Sony's doing and how they're handling their PSN, their services, their machine itself, the software. I mean, I could go on and on about all the things they're doing right, and it looks like they've taken the lead role in console gaming. Like they're all right, this is how it's done, and then everybody else has kind of got to follow suit. Nintendo should follow suit, but they're not. But I won't get into that right now. But Microsoft is kind of playing a Me Too program in a lot of ways, and I think Microsoft right now is trying to take the lead on this DRM thing. But I don't know. I don't think the world is ready. I think there's going to be a large chunk of the population that'll just shrug it off. But the gamers themselves are flocking to Sony for good reason, because Sony's been, like I said, they've been setting the standards, and they're doing it right, and they're showing how it's done. And I think gamers are finally starting to catch on to that. Hey, just because everybody's on Xbox 360 doesn't mean that PS4 is going to suck. Doesn't mean that PS3 does suck, as a matter of fact. I mean, PS3 is a better machine, if you ask me. The service maybe not quite as flush or is fluid as Microsoft's has been, but it's still it's getting there, and I think PS4 is going to be a position where they will take that even further, and it'll be just as good.
Yeah, I got a couple things, and then I'll just completely stop talking about it because I could talk for days. But when it came from PlayStation 2 to Xbox, everybody knew that there was a huge difference in the percentage of people that had PS2 for the more than had the Xbox. And then Xbox 360 came out, PlayStation 3 came out, and you saw the hardcore gamers from PlayStation 2 shift over to Xbox 360. Well, it came out earlier, but it had a more dedicated servers for games, less lag, and it was guaranteed to have online connectivity. And then PlayStation 3, and then you just had the Sony fanboys and some people that were, myself included, if you're an RPG fan, you were always told, stick with Sony. So you went over to Sony, it was a shittier service, but not nearly, at least at the start, more of these systems were in people's living rooms, but the 360 was. And you're going to see it's just a constant shift in power between the two since the PlayStation 1, which there was no real competition. You had the GameCube and part of the N64 before the PlayStation 2 came out, which, it's sadly for Nintendo, it kind of took GameCube off the market. And that was the same time in between that area where Dreamcast died. And then you're going to see the same thing here. And I always say when you have a new third-party developer coming out with a console, you're going to see the death of a system. And that's exactly what happened when you had Dreamcast, Sony's PlayStation, and Microsoft. You had two new competitors going against the Dreamcast. Dreamcast got ate away by these two new hyped up, and so on. And that's what we're seeing here with you have Mad Catz saying that it's called a Mojo, and it's going to be for Android games in your living room, the Steam Box, and the Ouya, or whatever the hell you say it. One of our bigger consoles going to die out this time, just like Sega's Dreamcast did.
And who do you think it's going to be?
Actually, I'm hoping, and this sounds really biased and messed up, but I know that Nintendo will not die. But for anybody like me that loves the IPs for Nintendo, all you want is them to die so you can buy a better hardware to play their software on. So I hope that it's Nintendo, but do I think it is? No. I think you're going to see the Mad Catz, because everything made by Mad Catz is garbage. They're going to be wiped out. And then Ouya, not too worried about Ouya either, because they don't have a huge third-party developers like support. So you can kick them out too. And then you're going to have Steambox, Microsoft, and Sony, competing. It's going to be those three consoles. And I think, depending on how they pitch the Steam Box, what it's capable of, and game content prices and things like that, I don't see why Steam Box would not be able to take out Microsoft. That's the only thing I think. I think Sony has the foundation, and they're going to get through this whether they're the top dog or not. But Microsoft's the one that I think we have to look out for.
On the bubble. Yeah, and one more thing I wanted to add to what you were saying, Carl, is and remember when the PS3 came out, I mean they had the biggest balls in the world. I mean they thought their shit didn't stink, and they were going to be able to drop that PS3 at $600 and just steamroll Microsoft away again, and it didn't quite play out that way. I mean they got arrogant, and now we're seeing Microsoft get arrogant too, and they think just because they've got North America locked up that they're going to keep North America locked up. Well, it certainly appears as though North America is responding in a way that is saying, all right, sorry, Microsoft, it's been fun, but we'll see you later. So we'll see how that plays out. Jeph,
Yeah.
Jeph, oh, sorry, you had something to say?
Well, just one more thing, just to say that's where I think the Steam Box and Microsoft thing are going to compete, because you have those Microsoft players that are going to switch to PlayStation 4. That's a gimme now because there's no DRM. Oh, I can just hand this cartridge over, or disc, rather, not cartridge. I'm old school, but I hand him my disc, and he can play it, no problems, no questions asked. And then, depending if the Steam Box can outsell the Xbox One, is where you're going to see, is Xbox going to make it? Is Microsoft going to be able to hold on to the console gaming world? Or are they just going to keep their monopoly on PCs?
Do you have any idea when the Steam Box is supposed to drop?
I did some research on it, probably when the site first came out, when we were working out of the forums. And it was announced that in August, people that have Steam, and there'll be a survey that comes out for any Steam user, and they fill out the survey for open beta or whatever. And they're actually doing this way different than other companies do, where they send it out to developers. They're actually sending it out to gamers, so people are going to get a prototype Steam Box. And then that in itself says a whole lot. They're doing things differently. So Steam users will get this prototype Steam Box. They test it out, and they'll be given certain games. They'll be given certain games to test, not they have to buy it. I mean, they'll be able to buy other games for it. I'm not sure if they'll require them to send it back or not, But August was when the prototype, or I call it the beta, is going out. So I'd say anywhere from December to February, you'll probably see a Steam box available.
Interesting. If they can release it before the holiday season, I think that would be best. We'll see what they can do. Jeph, I wanted to get your take. What do you think? We'll just generalize it. What do you think about these whole console wars and where things are going in the industry right now?
Well, I heard you say, I want to be the apologetic Microsoft guy, and sometimes I do too, but like I'm on my Facebook and I've got like people who are diehard 360 fans. I mean, back in the day we used to get in arguments, PlayStation versus Xbox, yours sucks and no, yours sucks, and it was really dumb. Yeah, it was stupid. But I mean, those are the kind of people I have now that I'm straight up just seeing them post like, screw this, I'm buying a PS4. I even had one of my best friends who's been a humongous Microsoft proponent who loved the Xbox 360. We used to argue all the time before we became great friends. He posted on my wall, I concede. That's all he put. Wow. And I think when we talk about the unapologeticness of it all, that the reason it's happening fiercely is because it's not just an IP, these individual IPs. It's not just what service is faster or better. It's not just which machine is stronger. It's not even which has the lower entry cost. But like, this is America. We are the consumer nation. And the way Microsoft has been doing it, it's been, a lot of us feel like they're taking away our rights as consumers with games. And that's what we've always had as console gamers. We've always been able to buy a game and then trade it in and deal with that whole suite of everything that PC gamers have ever had. And once, someone says, they're going to take that away, that you don't really, it almost feels like they're saying, you don't really own this game, and then they don't even care about it. It's almost a slap in the face. And I think what was most refreshing about Sony's conference, the end, where they said, used games, badass, here's the price, is that if you were to take any one of us in this room and after Microsoft's conference been like, all right, I'm going to give you 10 minutes to design Sony's conference to make it as good as possible, I would have done pretty much the exact same thing. Jack Tretton went out there with balls, and he was right at Microsoft. Used games. There was big splash screens. We love used games. You can still trade them in. You can share them with friends. Just everything that Microsoft was taking away from people. It's not often that you see a company as big as powerful as Sony attack that specifically and viciously. And it's like I said, I mean, they just got balls. And they knew that for a lot of people who are pure gamers that really like gaming, that they were standing up for them. So they went out there with conviction and said it, and I think that's why it was really refreshing to me. Also, they had that really funny commercial afterwards about the PS4 game sharing that I really like.
Yeah, I was going to mention that just now. I just pulled it up on YouTube. It's got nearing 13 million views, so yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty epic. I mean, the only thing that I didn't like, and you can call me racist or whatever, but I don't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but he was like the head of the PlayStation 4 development or whatever. I couldn't understand half the shit he was saying, and I don't mean to sound like a dick or anything, but I mean, if it wasn't for good pictures and the fact that, like, I can conceive what they're trying to tell me, I would have been completely clueless. It's like, I forget his name, Mr. Trenton. I'll go like that. I remember his last name. But Mr. Trenton, he's the great public speaker, and then the people that he was denouncing down to, like, hey, you take the floor for indie games, you take the floor for the console. They were really shitty speakers when it comes down to it. Like I would have much rather seen Mr. Trenton talk the whole time.
Yeah, I wish Kevin Butler would have been there. I miss Kevin Butler. Does anybody
I do too.
He was hilarious.
Yeah, I love Kevin Butler.
But yeah, dude, it was that we support used games. Here's the price point. And I've been to concerts, with big bands, and they play their last song, and they didn't stand there with an ovation as long as Trenton got after he dropped the bombs. Like, that was like a big deal. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like, woo, I like, Call of Duty 17, Ghost Dogs or whatever. It was like a big deal. And he just stood there while there was a crazy ovation. That's how you know that it was really intense. So
And if you saw the stream, probably the best part, if you were watching, like, I was kind of literally I don't care. My inner geek will come out right now. I stood up and cheered myself, and I'm fucking sitting at home in my living room watching this thing on a stream in front of my laptop, and I was like, holy shit! Like, I couldn't believe what was happening, and I stood up myself. I mean, but the best part, when I got back, was seeing, I mean, the whole time he has a shit-eating grin on his face as he's about to announce say the next line, you know? I mean, he knew. He just knew deep down, like, yeah, this is a home run. This is what it feels like to hit a grand slam in Game 7 of the World Series. He fucking did it.
You know? Oh, yeah. I mean, you can, that was perfectly scripted, because like I said before, it was just like your classic breadcrumbs to the loaf of bread, sorry. But so you keep going, and it's like little things, no DRM, bam, and then more like Vita support, and so on and so forth. It just kept getting bigger and bigger. But I think the best was like the day or two after, you sent me the GIF. We have the GIF on the website, and I'll post it up so everybody can see it. But he was in an interview, and like he just had, like, I always say, and it's like common slang now, is "nuff said." And he just said, hey, I don't have anything left to say. And he throws the mic behind his head like a badass. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knows Sony's shit doesn't stink this time around. They won something.
Well, and just to clarify, he didn't do that on stage, which I thought it would have been awesome. But I think the reason he didn't do that is because they have a reputation for their arrogance at E3. And he didn't want to appear arrogant. And the guy who was interviewing him actually set it up. He pulled the mic from behind his chair, and he handed it to him. His name is Jeph from Game Trailers. I'll give him props because that was fucking genius. I don't know if it was his idea or somebody else's, but that was great. And then Trenton, begrudgingly, it even looked like, he said, all right, kind of shrugged and tossed the mic. But that was the mic. That was the mic drop that we all wanted to see. I mean, that's literally, he could have walked off stage at that point. It would have just, that would have sent him over the edge.
That's badassery in itself.
I don't think that they used mics. I don't think he used a microphone when he was up on stage. I think they have headpiece mics.
True.
So it would have been kind of I mean, he could have taken that off and dropped it. Wouldn't have had the same impact. It probably would have been loud. It really hurt everybody's ears.
Just rip it out of his ear and toss it on the ground.
But I mean, it gave its point across. It said, hey, we kicked ass. There really isn't nothing else to say. And I mean, the guys at Game Trailers are the ones, maybe it's not Sony, you know, they're staying pretty humble about it. Other than like the used games trailer thing, which everybody's seen. And if you haven't, you should see it, because you're not a real gamer until you do. But then, you check that out, and then you're like, where were they going with that?
Yeah. So Jeph, let's get your prediction. I'll go ahead and air mine. I mean, I think it's clear. Carl is saying that it looks like Sony's going to take next generation. Then maybe not. Actually, you know what, Carl? Go on record. Make a prediction right now, and we'll look back on this in 5 years and see what happens.
All right. Well, here's my predictions, and this is not to be confused with our Nostradamus-like predictions for E3. Because there won't be any killer robots, I swear, this time.
Ridge Racer?
No, that's called Drive Club.
Drive Club.
Drive Club. And then like the fine text in the bottom is like Ridge Racer X. But
that didn't happen, by the way.
No, it didn't, but it should, because that's exactly what that shit is. But I think Ouya's gonna die out. I think the Mad Catz Android console is gonna die out, because they've already tried an Android system. Obviously, it hasn't worked in the past, so why would you do it again? And your Mad Catz, you give me garbage controllers that break, or something that I pay $40 extra for, so my L3 and R3 sticks on my fucking PlayStation 3 controller glow. So I'm not, you're not going to really make out. But I think the thing to look out for is PlayStation has the solid foundation. People are going to buy PlayStation 4. They're going to invest in their network. And as that revenue comes in, and it's proof as the revenue comes in, they constantly improve the service that they provide. That's getting me. PlayStation Plus came out. It wasn't the greatest at first, but as more people started to invest in it, and you have more subscribers, they give you more free games. They give you more AAA titles, and it grows and grows. Pyramid effect, all the way up to the top. Eventually, they're not going to be able to top out. And then you have Microsoft. They're kind of struggling now. They're like, oh, DRM and all that shit. Oh, I don't want to buy that because I can't give my friend like a copy of my game after I'm done beating it or trade. So I'm not done. I'm done with that crap. So they don't buy that. And then you have Steambox. It's something new. They're giving all these prototype systems to Steam users. It's going to be PC gaming in your living room. And I mean, I wouldn't mind playing a pretty decent PC game on my TV. So I got it hooked up HDMI. It's easy, infrared surround sound. It's almost perfect. So I think Steambox, there's a chance that they'll outsell the Microsoft One over time. Maybe not like the first 2 years, but after that, you'll start to see the Xbox One decline and the Steambox rise, because I'm still not sure when they're going to launch. But I really think that Microsoft's probably going to die out. And I didn't talk about Nintendo too much because as much as I want to see them be a third-party developer, they have a solid handheld system. They always win the handheld division. Even if it's not as strong as the Vita, the 3DS has more sales, more games coming out for it. So that's huge. But I think that the Nintendo selling point is the family-friend environment. Like, your whole family can get on like 75 to 80% of the Wii U games. It's made for household gaming. It's for your kids, you as the parents, or if you're just the kids, you spending time with your parents. It brings the family together. So, I mean, casual gaming is always going to invest in the Nintendo product when it comes to the living room, in my opinion.
All right, Jeph, how about your take? What do you think next generation is going to look like officially?
All right.
Official prediction.
And before we get going, I want to make something clear. Like like Carl said, I feel they're going to get wiped out. Like, I don't think anybody means Microsoft's going to get wiped out. That's almost an impossibility, barring like a meteor hitting every Microsoft office in the world. So when I say who I think is going to die, I think I just mean the specific console. But I see Sony going steady. They've got so much momentum right now that they would have to put their own foot so far in their mouth to mess it up that I can't see it happening. So I think Sony, I think the PS4 is going to be the next PS2. I didn't even know there was a Mad Cat system. I don't think that's going to do anything because I don't like the quality of their stuff. Machines that can play Android games are called phones. I just don't see a point really to it. Nintendo is going to be all right. As long as people keep popping out kids, people are going to keep buying Nintendo stuff.
True.
And on top of that, as long as you got Mario and their IPs aren't going anywhere. And if I've ever seen a company that can make an infinite number of the same game or similar games over and over again, Nintendo. As long as they can make Zelda, as long as they can make Mario's, Animal Crossing's, Pokemon, as long as they can make those, people will buy them. So I don't know. They might have some sort of weird video game immunity superpower. I guess the big ones for me are the Steam Box and the Xbox Live. And the Xbox One, I'm sorry. I don't see massive devastation happening to Microsoft because they're so big, they're so powerful, they have their hands so many places, they got so much money. I would foresee something like their curse of the third system. Like when Sega got to the Saturn, it was just boom, dropped a bomb. The PS3 was not Sony's best system, and at a lot of points I was holding my breath and trying to hope for the best with the system. This is their third console foray. I foresee it being something sort of like the Saturn, where it doesn't end up being as profitable as they want to, and they have enough money and enough backing and enough knowledge to be like, we have to do something to fix what we got going on. We have to revive this somehow. Where I would see they would have their fourth system, you know how the Dreamcast came out before the other next-gen systems? I can foresee them doing something like that. But if they do that, since they're Microsoft, I would think that their fourth system would fare better than the Dreamcast did with, and that they wouldn't die out. That's my specific prediction for them, is that the Xbox One doesn't live out the whole generation, so to say, and that they basically put forth the new system before then. Doing something like that's always tricky. The Dreamcast, obviously didn't survive, but if anybody could pull it off, maybe Microsoft could. My issues with the Steam Box, I don't foresee the Steam Box doing much of anything, just because I don't think it has a market. Most people right now who want to play PC games have a great gaming rig, and they don't care about something like that. And then when it comes to console gamers, they want systems where they can buy, unique IPs they can't get anywhere else, and they want to be able to trade their games afterwards. And a lot of them, I think, are afraid of something like the Steam Box, where it's a PC service. And I just don't think that the system of Steam, which is an awesome I have Steam. I love my PC. I just don't think it's going to sell someone who's normally used to console games. And I think they would have to release it at a really good price point in order for it to stand a chance, especially with the momentum that the PlayStation 4 has. So I would actually foresee the Steam box dying out more so than Xbox's lineage of systems. And I would probably see Steam getting out of the console market after that. That's my specific predictions.
All right. And I'll go on record. I would like to say, and I've noticed this is a pattern, I like to toot my own horn sometimes, but I'm going to do it again. Back when Microsoft was wiping the floor with Xbox 360, they were wiping the floor with PS3. I mean, they were all over them. Several years back, I said, just wait and see. Sony's not done yet, and sure enough, they have eclipsed Xbox 360's sales globally over by, I think they're maybe 300,000 more units sold now than Microsoft in an entire year less that it's been on the market. So, and that kind of happened. So I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna say, if I will toot my horn so loud, it'll be a fucking foghorn if I'm right. But it looks like to me that yeah, PS4 is indeed gonna take next generation. It looks like they're gonna have the most systems sold. They're gonna come out of the gate, I mean, kicking ass. I mean, if you look at Amazon's pre-orders already, I mean, they've sold out 2 or 3 different times and had to keep getting, asking for extra stock from Sony so that they could, their supply can meet the demand, and they're still struggling to keep up. I mean, and so I think it's very clear that the PS4 is going to definitely jump out of the gate ahead, and I think they'll stay there next gen. I think Carl said it. It's going to be a lot like the PS2, where it just was the machine, and it looks like that's where this might go. Microsoft is, of course, going for a different audience. They want the all-in-one, that they want the families, not necessarily in the same respect that Nintendo wants families. They're trying to sell to families too. Microsoft wants to be the all-in-one entertainment device, and I think they will be successful with that approach, but it's not going to be as successful as Sony. I think gaming is on the rise. It has been on the rise for a while. People disagree with me all the time. I disagree with y'all that disagree with me. So there. And it looks like next gen Sony's going to be their gamer's best friend. Microsoft will hang in there. They'll do what they do and be kind of maybe a subtext to what Sony's doing for, I believe we're at Gen 8 coming up. For Generation 8, they'll be the subtext to Sony's dominance of next generation. I want to see what Steambox is going to do. I think it has a lot of potential, and if they keep their policies very open-ended and try to, I don't know, if they try to evolve with gaming in general, I think they'll be all right, and they have a potential to really to find an audience, I guess. I don't think it'll be the same audience as obviously as Sony and Microsoft with people's love for those consoles, but it'll have its own audience. Like you guys are saying, I don't know if PC gamers are going to want to scrap their gaming rigs and play it on their TV. I think some will. But if they make it affordable, if they address DRM in a way that is user friendly, if they can do some different things with this Steam box, it could hang in there. I'll touch on Ouya and Mad Cat's mojo real quick. Yeah, they're gonna fail. All right, that's all I have to say about that. I'll go on and say that the reason Mad Catz is going to they're gonna fall flat on their face is because they already have a reputation. Anybody who knows is like, if you got a few bucks and you need an extra controller, you buy a Mad Catz and expect it to be a piece of garbage. I don't think they're going to be able to sell an entire console that's going to have... People are going to go into that going, oh, that's that company that No. And they'll just look right past it. I mean, even if the thing is priced at an ungodly low price, nobody's going to want to go for it. Third parties aren't going to want to develop for them, and that's going to be that for them. For Nintendo, yeah, I agree. Nintendo's got their family audience. I won't say it's locked up, though. I'm very nervous for Nintendo, and this is the part that I'm kind of nervous about, my 5 years from now, tooting my own horn. I think this is the generation Nintendo dies. I think we're finally going to get third-party consoles from them in the next, I'll say within the next 5 years, be safe. And because I think the Wii U is just not going to be profitable enough for them, and they're going to have to restructure in some way and start offering their software on multiple platforms and then make an absolute killing as a result. Because like I said, I believe gaming's on the rise, and we might see 100 million console sales within within the first 5 years of next generation for one of those systems. And if that's the case, and you still got another maybe 50 million in another, that's 150 million consoles out there. If you're making software for that big of an audience, and I'd say, I don't know, at least half of them, if not 80% of people who own consoles love Mario, and we want to play a Mario game, even though some of us, myself included, don't have a Wii U right now. I think we'd be looking forward to that. So, I think next gen is the gen that Wii U just kind of bows out, hopefully gracefully, and we get some Nintendo-developed games on Sony and Microsoft. And it's kind of a bold statement, but I'm making it, and we'll see what happens. So that. Go ahead.
I wanted to elaborate on a couple things real quick. The reason that I projected, you guys both have made it clear, PC gamers wouldn't want to switch over to the Steam box. It's all about the Steam box's price point, where it's at, and where it's going to go in the next. I don't see the Steam box growing until about 2 years after it's been developed and started being shipped out. And the only reason is that any PC gamer that plays top-of-the-line games on the highest settings knows that you have to, about every year and a half to 2 years, a new graphics card, probably not so much more RAM. Now it's all about the graphics card, but maybe even RAM. If you can find a system that will be able to play games for the longevity of system life, which I'm assuming after the long period of PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, it's probably going to be a long period of time. So if they find a reasonable price that's almost comparable to how much my upgrade for my machine is going to cost to play these games, then I'm thinking that, yeah, I'm going to buy into that, because for an extra $100, they might have a cloud-based service that I can play games for the next 7-8 years, opposed to having to constantly pay this $200 to $400 to upgrade my rig every year and a half to 2 years. So it might be a long-term investment. And then, yeah, that's it all. That's all I got.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. If Steambox is going to make a splash at all, it's not going to be at first. But like I said, it depends how they adjust to what the market's doing. And maybe in a couple years we could see them be a contender. I'm not sure. But I think that's going to round out this portion of the show. We're going to go ahead and take a break. I don't have a song prepared, but you guys will listen to a song, and I'll tell you what it was after the break.
Hopefully it's Death Metal Chocobo.
No, I don't remember if I said we were going to do that or not. But probably not.
Damn it.
So, enjoy your random music, and we'll be back. welcome back to TRG Radio. We are your hosts again, but we are joined again this week by Neil. Neil, welcome.
Hey.
Welcome back. And just as always, he sounds like somebody has just shot his mother.
Can't help it. I loved my mom.
All right. I said to you guys a little bit of an outline. Neil doesn't have a clue what's going on. I kind of told him a little bit, but it's okay. Neil, you mentioned that you didn't want the show to get too stale, but I did want to get your just a brief reaction on what you thought of this year's E3 2013.
Well, Sony won. I mean, same as everybody else. If Sony and Microsoft were going to fight, I think we know who would win. Sony just basically rubbed it in Microsoft's face, and Xbox One isn't going to sell nearly as good. And besides that, no, since Final Fantasy looks awesome.
Yeah, we're in the Final Fantasy looks awesome vote. These other two guys are not. Which, by the way, that is going to be a great segue. But for now, which Final Fantasy are you talking about?
Well, I mean, I liked 13.3. Well, Lightning's Return, I guess I'm just going to say that. LR, I like that one a lot, because Lightning and Sarah was pretty cool. I don't understand what she was doing, but I don't know. You're talking about the other one. What was it? 15 is what they're calling it now, which was Versus previously.
Mm-hmm.
That it's actually called
cool.
Versus 15, 13, 3.5 Versus, but...
Okay, I'll remember that. It looks like a lot of fun, though, honestly, just because it looks really different. Like the battle system, how he's like jumping around everywhere.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That one looks cool. These other two guys did not like the way they looked. I don't know. I don't think.
I just have a question for you. You say it looks cool how it looks, but what does it look a lot like?
It looks
no
like
idea.
itself.
Crisis Core, maybe.
I guess, but I mean, at the same time, it still looks really cool. I mean, that's all I need is a game that is fun and it looks awesome, and you just nailed it.
And is by Square Enix with FF as its whatever.
I think they're trying to find the hybrid though of like just gameplay over normal Final Fantasy turn taking and whatnot, but then also adding in the movement and RPG side of it. Like, I know you didn't play it, but in 13.2, the Lightning DLC, the final one that came out, you were only Lightning and you switched classes, and it basically kind of gave it off to me that they were going to try and lead towards what they're doing with 13.3. So,
actually, Neil, did you look at... Actually, they showed the E3 gameplay videos, but then they had a booth where they actually showed people playing it. And I'm just like you, I had the Lightning DLC, and the gameplay, the fighting system is exactly like the DLC, except for there's a bottom bar, and I don't know what that bottom bar is yet.
And you're supposedly, when you get into the battles, you're supposed to be able to walk around to control your own character and attack.
I'm excited for it. I know everybody else is happy, but I don't want 13. I don't want to say bye to Lightning and Sarah and all of them. I don't care about Zaz. I'm sorry. It's just Lightning and Sarah, really. They're the only ones I don't want to say bye to.
I'm not actually that interested in how they develop Saz. They probably won't at all again. But Saz was my favorite character from 13.1. I liked him. I thought he had an interesting backstory, and he was a cool black dude with a big afro and a bird in his hair. That was very cool.
I think the whole Lightning and Sarah thing, and this is just me being a skeptic, always have the tinfoil hat on, but the video that they showed in E3 during the Sony press release from the guy, it showed another pink-haired demon chick that summoned that giant fucking monster of doom. And if you look backtracking, this is a quote-unquote spoiler alert, but you have Lightning, who is now the acting goddess of Valhalla. You have Sarah, who's kind of a quote-unquote Yule, so somebody that manages the timeline. They all have pink hair. They all look very similar. They're related. And you can't help but look at this new pink-haired girl, I'm imagining it to be the antagonist, but that there's some kind of relation between them all, whether it's a cousin or a long-lost sister. Like, you can almost link it up. There's similarities from eye color to hair color to body stature. They look exactly the same.
I think this is, you can't talk about Final Fantasy 13.3 without mentioning that Snow is making a return, and he will be the mayor of a giant town of whores. This is truth. If you don't believe me, look it up. It's just happening.
I did see that.
In quality after all.
Is Noel coming back?
Yeah, actually, I saw another. I'm big on watching trailers for this game, but it was just the cinematic footage. But it had Noel diving down off of this high rise or wherever it was. But her Lightning was sword fighting Noel for some reason. Something where their paths have interacted in a bad way, that they're fighting each other.
Trust me, I'm looking it up right now. I need to find it.
Must find everything possible. Yeah, I'm only quasi sort of thrilled for 13.3. It does look good, and I'm gonna obviously pick it up and play it just to see, because I was a huge fan of 13.1. I really liked 13.2, and we'll see what 13.3 does. But like I said, that's a perfect segue into the thing we're gonna talk about next. I think all of us, but maybe Neil, got involved in the Final Fantasy XIV beta. Final Fantasy XIV beta released this past Friday. To people who downloaded the trailer from the PlayStation Store for Final Fantasy XIV. And it also ended up, also the PC version for some reason dropped the same day, a few hours earlier, I think it was. Or no, it was the previous day. Either way, the PC and PS3 versions of that beta are out. I'll say are out loosely, because the beta did end early Sunday morning, but it didn't end. I guess they were supposed to just continue it on through to next week and the week after, and maybe even the week after. I don't know exactly how long it's supposed to run, but they had some problems with a certain portion that they want to get beta tested, and so they had to shut down the beta this past weekend shortly after it started. I don't think it was even open for 48 hours.
It was actually 47 hours, and sadly 46 of those hours I played the whole time.
Yeah, I was pretty much in the same boat. Like I said, I was supposed to review The Last of Us, and I'm still going to. But when the beta came, and right after I heard that it was ending on Sunday early morning, I was like, I gotta focus this weekend on FF14 beta.
I gotta stare at my friends list and look at you guys play it. It was a lot of fun.
It was even more fun knowing that you were staring at us playing it.
These past 2 days have been great.
I'll tell you, I didn't feel too bad. I got lucky. I actually got both codes. I got the one for the PlayStation 3 and the PC, so there's a lot of haters out there that asking for it, but I got both. And just to answer some questions that a lot of people have and had, I had my character, it was the Bahamut server, and that's where we all played on the PS3 and the PC. It cross-interacted, but when I logged in on my PlayStation 3, I was still able to pull up my character, so all the data is carried over server side.
That is also really awesome. That is a question I had too. That is cool, and I think that's the future of how any cross-platform games are going to go. I was glad that this generation with PS3 and 360, they started to do some cross-platform stuff. I know Dustfly 14, I believe, can do cross-platform, but it looks like next gen they're really pushing for that, and it's seamless. It seems like it's seamless. It seems like. Sorry for the redundancy, but I like that. I like that you can bring it to a different machine, different platform altogether, and still load up your account. That's cool. But at the same time, it makes sense, because that account is going to be the one you're paying the monthly fee for, so it would make sense to be on more than one platform.
Yeah, I mean, if you got it, and I mean, it's not like they're the client's free. I mean, obviously for the beta, they let us in for free, but the PC version is going to be $10 cheaper than the PlayStation version. But like, if I end up getting both of them, like, I'm probably going to hold off on the PlayStation version until PlayStation 4 or whatever, because they're supposed to port it over. But I'm going to stick with the PC, but it's nice to know, and we already tested it, at least with the text chat, that we can play PC to PS3 in the same party, do the same, like, instances and things like that. So I'm pretty excited at where they're headed, but just a little side note. I'm hoping that one of us get into the beta of the Elder Scrolls Online, because I'm going to do a comparison of the two, what they have to offer, what's better, what's not better, for if you're going to be a PlayStation 4 gamer, because they're both coming out on that console. So look forward to that, but hopefully we're still waiting for it to come out for the betas.
When you're talking about cross-platform, Portal 2 did a good job with that. It came with, if you bought it on PS3, it came with a code to download it for PC.
Wow, that's taking it a step further. I think at least Final Fantasy XIV, you'll have to buy separate copies of the game, Yeah, I'm gonna say that. Yeah, I think you'll have. I don't think it'll come with a code for if you buy the PC version or vice versa to get it on the other platform. But am I correct, Carl? I mean, it just so happened that you got the beta code, so you had it on both machines. Since it's free, it's not.
Well, yeah, I mean, I signed up for the PlayStation 1 way back in '08 or '09 whenever 13 came out, and I registered my 13 copy. And then that one I did for PlayStation 3. And then I did a separate on my TRG Carl at therealgamers.net a while ago, as soon as I got the email out for the PC version. And I just happened to get both emails. I got the PC one a day earlier so I could get my client and get ready to log in. And my PlayStation 3 one came out the day later. So...
I'm still assuming you'll have to buy it for both platforms in order
Oh,
to play
yeah, as of now, like, I haven't gotten any clarity on if I'm gonna have to buy both or if one's gonna be good for like both, which I'm hoping that would be great. And then just a side note, like he was saying for the other game, Tierra, I bought it for PlayStation 3 originally, and then I had just gotten a computer that I can handle Steam and play games and stuff. So I emailed the guys, like the contact support, and I said, hey, I got the PlayStation 3 version. Can I get this version of Tierra for my PC as well? And then they just gave me a code to type into Steam to redeem, and then I got it. They just did like cross-platform to the point where they're like, oh, you already invested. We'll give them this too. So it was kind of nice.
It is nice. But a little bit more expanding on the FF14 beta. It ended this Sunday. It is scheduled to go back online Friday, the the 21st. So it will be back on Friday, and I'll be jumping back into that then. And in the meantime, I'll be getting through the rest of The Last of Us, but which we'll get into in a minute. But I wanted to talk. I wanted to talk. Excuse me. A little bit more about the Final Fantasy XIV beta. I know, Jeph, you didn't have the greatest experience with it, so I think I'd like to hear from you a little bit. I think the rest of us love it, but you hate it, and I your reasoning I cannot argue with. So, yeah, what's your reaction to FF14's beta?
Well, my guy's level 9. He's a falafel, whatever that means. And I run around and I cast arrow at stuff. And it dies. My MP regenerates super quickly, and then my health regenerates super quickly also. Basically, I just run around and do stupid quests for people, all like over and over and over and over again. And as I level up, I don't get to put my points anywhere. It automatically determines where they go. And it's just, there seems to be no real growth aspect to this game. It just seems like all the worst parts of an MMO that I can't stand, where there's just, a bunch of people around to ruin the atmosphere. I don't get to pick where my points go. My dude is just, you're a white mage, and you just get white mage points and do white mage stuff. You're white mage. And there's just a whole bunch of stuff like that.
You said that like super racist.
Only if you heard it that way.
Yeah, Neil. But yeah, it just... I don't know. It's really, the combat's really boring to me. I bet it probably does get more fun if you're in a party. Most games are like that, especially MMOs. But as of right now, I don't even feel like my dude is. I customized the way he looked, I guess. I had a few options with that, but other than that, like, he doesn't feel like it's my dude. I really just feel like he's like a generic dude, and I'm running around doing fetch quests for people.
Yeah, and I think that's the portion of your distaste that I agree with the most. A few of the things I wrote down here. I'm going to be reviewing the demo once I hit level 25. Me and Carl are going to tag team it, and I agree. It starts really slow for the first 10 levels. I will say that once you hit level 10, you can then distribute 3 points, and then every other level thereafter you get 1 point to distribute. So that does help. It helps with a little bit of customization. Plus, a lot of it, once you get and start seeing the more equipment, you'll be able to buy equipment that favors the stats that you want too. So you can choose between different equipment to get, strength upgrades or intelligence upgrades, wisdom, whatever. So you will be able to get more customizations, but yeah, that feeds right into it. The first 10 levels or so, I say even the first 15 levels are really I guess, monotonous unless you have patience. I enjoyed them because the controls on PS3, I have it on PS3, are so goddamn complicated that I needed that time to really adjust to what the hell was what I was doing with this controller. But once I did, and yeah, right around level 10 to 15 or so, things started to open up. I got into a couple parties. It does get much more enjoyable when you're in a party and doing party battles. I mean, so I enjoyed it. Did you have any other negative things to say about it first?
I just feel like that's an awful long time of mandatory boredness to have before a game really opens up for you. That's just all I have to say about it. Is if they can change it with a final release where once you start gaining levels, you start being able to customize your dude and do more stuff, then maybe it'll be a different story. But as of right now, that's way too long of like an introductory phase.
It kind of reminds me, I know I didn't play it, but it kind of reminds me of Borderlands 2. You, like, basically create your character in a sense. You can't really create them, but you can choose your head and your skin, and then you basically play the game, do a random bunch of quests, but once you get level, I think it was 5 is when you got your first skill point, and then you can actually start putting in skill points into your tree every level and start actually playing. But I think they could do for Final Fantasy is, I know you hate that, but like your first character, once you get him to level 10, anytime you make another character, they can start at 10. I think that would work.
This one's a little bit different in the sense that you'll choose your class, and I don't even know when. I believe it is at level 10 once again. You'll be able to go to a different guild and get a different weapon. And as soon as you equip that weapon, you automatically have like almost a completely different character. So, but you do have to level that up from 1. So, not quite 10, but there you go.
Oh yeah, and I mean that carries on for your trades. Your trades aren't just like a trait tree or a skill tree. You actually have to change classes, switch jobs is what they're turning towards. Like, I kind of get like a Final Fantasy 3 or 5 vibe from the job system. Like, you keep what you earn, and then whatever else you had with that job. So like, say I was a lancer at first, and then I was a carpenter, so I did a lot of carpentry work. But if any passive stats would carry on. So, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Like I said, we're not even, those of us who have played it aren't even far enough to really know, how big of a difference that is. I barely touched. I have my guy's a marauder, straight up. He's a tank without the defense, so I'm assuming he has better offense than your average tank. And so far so good. I mean, it seems like some of my attacks are doing almost as well as the DPS wizards or whatever they are called. So I like that. But I also I bought myself a hammer, and that's the blacksmith's weapon. So I have a blacksmith hammer, and I can convert to a blacksmith. And I touched on him a little bit, but I didn't want to start all the way over from level 1 because of the beta was, it was ending later the next day. So I didn't really get into it, so I don't really know how different that's going to feel yet. But I imagine it'll be quite different. We'll see. One other thing I did want to mention about FF14 is I do like the story. I won't talk too much about it because I did skip a lot of the text. Because there's a lot of dialogue in this beta. I hope that hopefully in the main story quests you'll be able to catch some voice acting, some voice, so you don't have to read all the text. That would be great because there's a lot of reading in this game, a ton. And I don't know half of the story, but for what I did read of it, it seems very interesting. I like the way it feels like. It still feels sort of like an MMO, but at the same time, it can feel like you're playing through a Final Fantasy game too. Maybe not quite to the extent of a real Final Fantasy game, but it still has that feel of, all right, this thing's got a story and a background, and this world has a personality, So I thought that was pretty cool. Carl, anything else that struck you about this game? Actually, I'll say real quick. I want to hammer this home. I really enjoyed the whole cross-platform thing. I thought it was really cool. And for those of you who didn't get a beta code, does anybody know if they're still giving them out? Because this is supposedly like phase 2 of the phase 3 of the beta. So I don't know if they're going to be giving out more beta codes, or if you don't have one, you're asked out. Anybody know the answer to that?
The only thing that I've heard, and like I've been an active part of their community on their beta testing forums, but they should be giving out more PS3 than PC. So if you sign up for PS3, still look for it. But actually, the reason that they did the 48 hours now was to see how they could handle traffic from both platforms at the same time on a single server. And 2 out of the 8 servers that they have up right now had problems interacting the two, but the rest of them did really good. Like the one we were on, we had no hiccups, which was a really good thing because there was another 2 that were down pretty much 75% of the 48 hours that we have with the game.
Ouch. See, I didn't know that. I guess we were spoiled because it never went down for me, at least for the countless hours I played on it.
And I mean, so look forward to your PS3 codes, and then if you're a PC friend, don't be worried if you have some PS3 guys that are playing, because we had absolutely no problems with the cross-platform. And if you pick up your PS3 beta code later, you can just port your character over through the server, and it's really easy to do.
Yeah, Neil, did you sign up for it?
I actually signed up for both, and I got nothing because people like it.
Yeah, my PSN inbox was filled when I was playing it. I must have had probably 12 different friends message me, "How'd you get it? How'd you get it?" Like, I feel so lucky that I got it now.
That's what I don't get, dude. We all signed up, and everyone in the group got one other than me. I'm like, really? Like, honestly, what is the chances that... not even the fact that, of course there's a chance one of you guys will get it, but everyone other than me, that was just like a slap in the face.
I know. I don't even really like it. I got one.
He hated it. Jeph hated it. I got it.
I got it just so I could verify how much fun I didn't have. I feel bad.
He got it just to say he doesn't like it, and then I'm stuck alone.
Then maybe that means you'll be indifferent to it.
I'll get a code now while it's down. That's active for 1 day. They're like, here, we felt bad.
You got 15 minutes. Go.
Play as a falafel. Have fun.
Well, I will say one other thing. It did seem to have a wide variety of things to do, but everything was a fetch quest. It seemed like not everything. I won't go that far. There were other, as a matter of fact, that reminds me. So I was stuck. When you choose your class will define where you start. And I believe there are 3. There might be more, but I know there are at least 3 starting locations possible. And I started away from everybody else. Me and one other guy in our little Final Fantasy XIV crew coming up, Requiem of Sin, we're going to call it. So be on the lookout for us on the Bahamut server. I think we're going to stick with it if it carries over. But anyway, yeah, so I was stuck on a different continent. And then I was talking to a guy, I was grouping up with him, and he was trying to go over to the main continent. And when I was unable to come because I didn't have an airship pass. I found out you could get an airship pass, so I just busted through the story as fast as I could. And there are a couple of really interesting story quests that really, it required you to tactically approach the battles that lied therein, and I enjoyed that a lot. I died several times on a few of them. They're tough. It's not just a walk in the park. You're not just going to be able to grind and get there, because they have this thing that if you're too high of a level, it'll force you to go down a couple levels so that it balances it, and thus, because I was at the max level for a couple of these, and even at the max level, I struggled with those battles. You had to just behave the proper way. You had to attack the right people and defend in the right way. It was just, I think it was really, really well done. So I wanted to tout that. I thought it is an enjoyable experience. And once again, going back to that thing, later on, at some point, the thing really starts to get its legs and pick up steam. So, Jeph, I mean, hopefully you play with us next weekend and get yourself to that point, and we'll see if maybe your opinion changes.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll put some time into it, though, for sure. At least earned a little bit of my time. And I'm almost level 10, so...
Yeah, and I will say that the fun factor went way up when I finally got to the main continent with everybody else in the crew, and I was able to do some questing with those guys. Those were a lot of fun, too.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
So...
Sorry, Neil.
There was a lot of bugs still, and
yeah.
That's the only thing that I'm really wary about, and thinking about it back all the time that I spent. And when we went over it in previous podcasts, I'm huge on bug exploitation. I exploited a bug, but I also reported the bug, so I don't feel nearly as bad about it.
Good
but like
you.
he was saying before, there's certain quests where they're called fake quests, and if you're a higher level and you lower your level to sync up with them, you'll get like the same amount of experience if you were the same level as everybody else. But if I noticed, if I had my experience bar 3/4 of the way up and I synced my class my experience bar went down too. They actually fixed this like literally within, I guess, 3 hours of me reporting it. But I went from I had 36,000 experience to 69,000 experience,
Wow.
which is a little less than half. But I reverted four levels, and as soon as I killed my first monster, I leveled up, and then it kept doing that every time that I reversed more than 3 levels down. So I mean, it's reported, it's probably going to be fixed, but there's still a lot of bugs in it. Like, don't think it's a perfect MMO. That's why it's still in beta. It's like really still got a lot of problems in it.
Yeah, I was actually surprised to see that I didn't come across too many bugs of my own. My main problem was when I got to the main continent. I mean, it is so much more populated than the continent I started on. It's not even funny. I mean, it is literally crowded over there, which I like. I like that there's that many people, but there was some definite slowdown. The frame rate dropped, and yeah, I mean, there were some problems there. I don't know if those will be addressed, but those are the only real bugs I saw. There was a couple more I can't even think of. They were just shrug off, oh well, bugs. With the map system, there you go. That's one I can think of. Sometimes on the map, it won't display your quests right, and you'll get there, and it won't show you where to go. Most of the quests, it does show you where to go. It's supposed to be that way for all of them. You're supposed to know on your map where that is going to be, and sometimes it just won't show it, which was a problem. But I noticed towards the end of that beta test period, maybe they fixed it. I didn't have that problem anymore, and I accepted a whole bunch of quests. So maybe it was just certain quests. Maybe it was a issue that they resolved. I don't know. But most of all, I was actually surprised at how few bugs there were for me. What kind of other bugs did you see, Carl? Any? Or we'll just skip you because you're on mute.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, there was quite a few. Between animation glitches, I noticed a lot of that. But, you know, being that it's an MMO, that you'll be hunting different animals that you're supposed to kill, or monsters, mobs, whatever you want to call them. But there was times where I was getting devastated because there was nothing but archers and mages around me, and I'm a lancer, kind of like an introduction to the dragoon, so I had a spear. But I would have these guys, and I would single-handedly do 75% damage to them. And then an archer or a mage would finish them with like that last 10 HP left, and they would get the kill, and it wouldn't even count towards me. So, I mean, to me that seems like a bug only because they should have something, and a lot of MMOs do, where if you did the most damage and you're not in a party, that's your kill or your party's kill. So that was one big bug that I had. And then there was a lot of glitchy animations, at least on the PC side. I noticed that people would have equipped their job clothes, so like say you're a carpentry or a leather worker or anything like that, you would switch into your tunic and then your tools and stuff. But for some reason, when we had the tunic equipped and everything, we'd all be naked, and it didn't matter if we had it on or not. So there'd be a bunch of naked people, and like the leather working guild was where I started out at. So it was kind of weird to see a bunch of naked people like kneeling down, scratching leather with their knives and shit. And then, like I said, just other than that fate bug and that, and there's kind of like a buggy, like if you guys play Elder Scrolls, jumping up the mountains type travel. There was many places where I would jump up, and this is me exploiting bugs again, but I would jump up on the top of a mountaintop, and then I'd warp like completely across the world to a whole different place. And every bug that I'm telling you now has been reported, and hopefully they fix before Friday.
Yeah. And I'll co-sign the one that you said about the experience one. I've had a couple of instances where that happened to me, where I was battling a monster either before, or even sometimes I'd join a battle late, but I'd do tons of damage, and then the monster would die, and I would get nothing for it. And I had a clear role in it. Supposedly, it weighs your contribution, especially in the fates. It specifically says it's supposed to weigh your contribution. If you had a heavy contribution to the battle, you should get heavier experience than everybody else. But I didn't really notice any drastic difference in that every battle. Maybe it's because I have a high damage character that I would just get a lot of experience, and it seemed like I would never was sold short in that area. I was always getting a good chunk of experience for all those fates. So I'm not sure. But enough with the bug reports. Anything else that anybody wanted to add before I move on?
The only thing is like so far, unless they change it, the tutorial is way too long.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I want to do, and I've applied in multiple accounts, and then the other guys did, is Elder Scrolls Online. Don't make your commitment until we come out with this, because it's going to come out. And one or the other is going to be the better MMO for your next generation console. So I would hold off. I mean, I'm not saying just bank your opinion on ours, but we're probably going to give you the most realistic one.
Yeah, I'll co-sign that. That's one of the goals that we have for our site. You know, to take these things and give it a little bit more of a grounded opinion, as opposed to you know, the opinions you might get from the bigger websites, the one that might favor one side over the other because they contribute more ad money or something. So yeah, I think we pride ourselves in being able to give a realistic and multifaceted view of certain things, and this is definitely one we're going to do that with. This, you know, Elder Scrolls or Final Fantasy XIV thing. So we'll wrap that up. I guess moving on, and I feel bad for Jeph because he's absolutely anti The Last of Us. But I did want to get into a little bit of discussion on The Last of Us before we move into something else. The Last of Us, yeah, like I said, it dropped. I've been able to contribute a bunch of time to it. I played broke even on single player versus multiplayer. I played a lot of the multiplayer, and I believe, I don't know, Neil, I'll let you speak on that. How much of the single player versus multiplayer have you played?
I want to say more single player, but to be honest, like after last night, probably more multiplayer now. I beat the game, the campaign already, and then after that, I was like, I'm pretty much free to play multiplayer endlessly.
Yeah, I haven't gotten. I played more multiplayer than single player. It's getting closer to even, but yeah, a little bit more multiplayer for me too. And I guess the reason I wanted to touch on this was because you know, the insane week, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit on Friday, and that didn't happen because we didn't have our normal Friday podcast. But I will say with absolute 100% conviction that the general Metascore reviews out there are they hit it on the money. I mean, it's a great game. It really is. And I actually wanted to, not so much about the single player, I wanted to talk a little bit about the multiplayer and get Carl and Jeff's kind of opinions on this. But the multiplayer was very, very engaging, surprisingly so. I hate stealth games, and if anything, this multiplayer is very much a stealth/shooter. But I mean, the way it's played is so far removed from any game I've ever played multiplayer. It's not even funny. I mean, the way you have to approach these maps and how you know, take your character or your guy and sometimes team up. You can even go solo. I mean, it's only 4-on-4, but I mean, that's a completely different experience, and both have their merits. And I really liked the way it felt. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It sort of, you know, maybe I say this too much, but it blew me away how just different it was than anything I've ever done. And it ties really well into the, you know, the story mode. I mean, the mechanics are almost the same. There's just a few differences, of course, so that it actually works for a multiplayer mode in that type of game. But I liked it. I liked how you had to hide all the time and craft all the time. I mean, you're doing everything on the fly. It's very intense, and there are moments where you'll jump out of your seat because some guy was hiding very well, and you thought you checked, but you were wrong, and there he was, and now you're dead. And I thought it was really cool.
I think one of the funniest things about it is, like, you can tell, like, I'll run in it, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to crouch walk the whole thing, but you can tell people that haven't played it yet, or, like, they're on the first week, and they're just sprinting. Once it starts, they're just running. Even once they get to cover and they find you, they're just going to run around, like, you're not going to see them. They don't know they show up on the radar. You can tell, though, that people are so new to it right now that even though you can get in lobbies where people are really good, at the same time, you can tell, you know, a lot more learning people still have to do to jump into this. You can't just start playing it like it's any multiplayer game.
No. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I had my most annoying moment this morning. I jumped on the multiplayer, and I landed in a lobby with all level 8 to 10, and one level 15 was there. And I was like, okay, this should be interesting. And sure enough, I got smoked. I mean, when people know what they're doing, it's a huge leg up. As soon as you get in the lobby and you see all zeros and ones, if you've had some time with the game and you're level maybe 4 or 5 or higher, you've got a feel for how the multiplayer works by then. If you see all zeros and ones, you just know you're going to have a great match in that one, and it happens almost every time. It's true. Once you get into if you're new to the multiplayer, it's going to take some adjustment to really get the mechanics and how different it is. I love seeing the zeros and ones because they'll come in and they'll play it like it's a Call of Duty game, and they will get destroyed as a result. You cannot approach this like a first-person shooter. It doesn't work. You can't even approach it like Uncharted 3. I mean, even having an Uncharted 3 style of play, that doesn't work.
What I hate is I always get on the team where I play with 2 other people almost always. And it'll be me and my 2 friends. And we always get on the team where we'll play people that are kind of the same as us, but we'll get the teammate that is, it's his first day, and he's just sprinting there and always dying, using all of our lives. We always get stuck with the one guy that's like, hey guys, look at this, I learned how to hold a controller today, this will be fun. And it's just, we just get, so nerve-wracking. But, I don't know. The only thing I want them to add, like, obviously they're sticking with the same guns that were in story mode and the same maps from story mode, but I wouldn't mind them adding some more guns or even skills, like, because there's, there's a good amount of skills and whatnot, but at the same time, you could play and get, 5 weeks done and try pretty much everything, not every build, but every skill and gun out. Then.
Well, one thing I will say to that is if you try that, if you have different loadouts with different skills in it, it can literally change the way you approach the game completely again. Because I just recently started to use the covert, I think it's called covert ops, where they can't see you in listen mode if you're crouch walking. And I found that allows for a lot more stealth, and you can sneak around a little bit better that way. And then there are other ones that favor more offense. I can't even think of them off the top of my head. But then you can go ahead and understand that you're going to be seen more, but kind of overwhelm them a little bit more as a result. I mean, it feels like there's probably a good 3 or 4 different set ways to approach that depending on your loadout.
Have you tried doing a Shiv-only game?
Like, you just agree beforehand that you're only going to use shivs, or you decide for yourself?
No, you by yourself, only you. Have you tried that? Doing only steps and doing shivs?
No, I was running a loadout that was a little bit different. It was more favoring with the explosives and the crafting, and I just now got into the covert ops one, which you get a free shiv. And once you hit level 2, you get a free shiv that you spawn with. So I just recently started shivving people and using smoke bombs. So no, I haven't done that.
I usually run the semi-auto rifle, but I mean, there'll get games where we're just doing either good or bad, and it's going back and forth with whoever we're playing, and we'll just decide to mess with them and go only shivs. Our whole team, we don't always lose doing that, but I mean, that game is so much fun when you do it that way because you're totally stealth. No one's on your team's running. Their team's like barely inching because they don't know what to do because they don't know where we're at, and it's just, I don't know. You got to try it at least for like 5 games, just random games, just decide, hey, you know what, my team sucks, I'm going to try it. And it's a lot of challenge. It's really challenging, but it's so much fun to do that.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. It sounds like something I'll probably take up when I get a little bit better at this new loadout, because
No, you got to be bad. That's what makes it more fun.
Yeah.
You just got to be the guy. Oh, hey, I don't know if you know this. I didn't even find this out until actually earlier today. Someone threw a smoke bomb at me. And if you, like, throw it, like, literally right next to someone, and they get stunned by the smoke, you can shiv them from the front. You don't have to be behind them. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I got stabbed. I'm like, glitch. And they're like, you can do that. I'm like, glitch.
Yeah, no, I actually read that in some of the little tutorial help things while the game's loading. It said if you stun them with the smoke bomb, you can shiv them from the front. So
the ones I get are useless. It's like you aim with the right analog. I'm like, oh, thank God.
But all right, so we've talked about this a little bit. And I wanted to not to exclude you two, but you guys have not played The Last of Us or even the multiplayer. I mean, hearing us talk about it, I'll start with Jeph, because Jeph is the anti-Last of Us guy. Does this sound like something you might be interested in?
Multiplayer, maybe. I'd have to definitely see it a little bit more. I've seen Uncharted multiplayer, and that was kind of fun. But when you guys talk about like the steps and the crafting and all of that, that's like elements that aren't in a lot of multiplayer games. So I'll probably go online and watch some YouTube videos to see how interesting it seems to me. Because I'm not really like a Twitch Fest type deal. I'm really bad at like those Unreal Tournament type games where it's just running and aiming and firing. But this might have something to appeal to me. I said, I have to look at it. It seems like there's definitely a lot of elements you don't find in other multiplayer games.
Well, I will say, I wanted to say one more thing. This thing struck me. I had never played Counter-Strike that much, but it has a really strong Counter-Strike feel as far as each, I guess, each life you kind of have to. I won't say not each life. I guess it's more on the fly than Counter-Strike. But I know in Counter-Strike, each time you die, you basically build your loadout from there. But in Last of Us, it feels like, you use the tools that you find along the way to craft whatever, and it's kind of, I don't know, it reminded me a lot of Counter-Strike in that way, which I think is a big plus on its side.
I think it's like they really simplified it, but at the same time, there's so much you can do with it. That's what I love about it. Because you start with, depending on your loadout, you could start with basically a revolver and like 2 skills, and have like, I think you even start with like 6 bullets or 4 with the revolver. I don't remember what is exactly, but at the same time you're trying to focus on killing them, but you could also run around and just scavenge supplies around the map and try and build bombs or set traps. There's so much you can do, and you just start with nothing, and they still kind of tried to keep that Last of Us feel for the multiplayer where you're not an army versus an army, you're survivors versus survivors.
Right, and you will run out of ammo in this game. In multiplayer.
All the time.
At some point, probably soon after you start it, you're going to run out of ammo and be hurting and trying to find some. So.
Yeah, you get 4 kills and you're ruined. The most kills I ever got in a game, or best game I ever got was the other day. I went 14-3, but I like 2 of those, or 4 of those were melee kills because I had no bullets at the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it does keep that single player, you are a survivor feel. It's definitely not a whole, crew of, army versus army. It's some undersupplied people against undersupplied people and trying to make the best of what you get. So, how about you, Carl?
I was kind of disappointed that they didn't do anything the co-op route, I guess, and I personally know like 9 or 10 friends of mine that were totally into the game and they wanted to get it. A couple of them even pre-ordered it and still bought it, but they bought it under the pretense that it's a survival horror game. It's zombie survival. Why is there not a co-op? For me, the multiplayer actually sounds pretty fun, and where a lot of people sound like, oh, it hasn't been done before, more stealth oriented or anything. Just think back to some old Splinter Cells. This has been done before, and I personally have never played it, but what it sounds like is a more perfected version of like the previous Splinter Cell entries online.
Huh. Yeah, come to think of it, because it's survivors versus fireflies. I guess spies versus mercs is a good comparison. I never played Splinter Cell, so I guess maybe you can take what I said about it being different than anything out there with a grain of salt, because I didn't try the Splinter Cell, so I wouldn't know.
What you're saying too about like no co-op, I just kind of heard about that too. But in the story, you do get to play as other characters. You're not just throughout the whole game. But multiplayer, it can be played like co-op. Whereas like if you play Call of Duty, don't get me wrong, I like it, but you can be a one-man army and ruin the entire team by yourself. In this game, if you're not with at least one person at some point helping you, there's no way. There's no way, because if you run into a group of 4, you can't take them all down at once. If they're all together, you're dead. There's no hope. You have to play a multiplayer actually like a team, or at least some part of it with a friend, because I mean, there's just no way. It doesn't play like that.
Right. Yeah, I noticed the only time I was ever successful going off on my own is when the other team kind of, all right, they saw that we were going all as a group, so they kind of approached as a group, which means they're all going one way on the map. All right, well, I can sneak around the back, and literally I could take out 2, 3 of them by myself by just breaking from my own group and hitting them from the back. And I thought that was really cool too. But anyways.
Yeah, half the time I'm playing my friend Trevor, and I'll be just out there shooting at them, so their whole team's focused on me, because I'll be on the map and he won't. And he'll just crouch, walk around, and run a shiv or whatever suppressed gun he's got, and he'll never show up, and you can just kill him off. If you don't play as a team, I mean, there's like, or if you do play as a team, you're gonna win, and if you don't, you're pretty screwed on that.
Yeah, those moments where I went off on my own, I found you only have limited success doing that. It works sometimes, but for the most part, you're right. But the approach I took to it was I was still being a team player by going around behind them. All right, now they're all turning around, and now my team just bombards them from the other side too. So I mean, that's it. The strategies. One thing that I need to emphasize is the strategies available in this are endless. It seems. I mean, you literally, if you coordinate as a team, your team will win. It's that intensive. It's not. We're talking it to death, but I mean, it's not just overwhelming the other side. It's tactically outsmarting them is going to get you success.
One thing that's really cool, I don't know if you guys have played Gears of War. I think it started in 3. I don't remember if 2 had it. But you could do, like, the special executions. I don't remember what they're called in that. But if a guy was down, you could, like, rip his arm off and start just beating him with it. And this one, if they get down, they have the same kind of aspect, but it's a lot more grounded. Like, you'll hold him down, and he's still struggling. You'll shoot him in the head. It's so brutal looking. Like, I didn't expect that at all in this game. You know, I expected violence, but, I mean, it looks brutal. Like, you're literally doing this to this guy, and he's like fighting for his life, and you just nail him.
Yeah, that was cool too. But to go off with, sorry, I talked myself onto a side note. I agree. A few weeks back, I did write an article, kind of thinking that maybe the reason Naughty Dog was being so quiet about their multiplayer mode until just before the game released was because it was going to have some kind of epic, unique co-op. Instead, they went with a competitive side, a competitive approach. And it's its own unique thing too. So I guess that explains that. But I was hoping for a co-op too. Carl, you touched on it. It's a survival horror game. That's something that, I mean, my memories of that was, I was a teenager, PS1, introduced to Resident Evil. Didn't expect anything. I heard good things about it. So within a couple weeks of it releasing, I picked it up, and my friends who were not gamers, the people who lived nearby, neighbors and stuff, we'd all group up together, and we just ended up just every day playing this game because it was just so intense. It was us all together. It's survival horror. It works really well with a friend or more. You know what I mean? And for this not to really have that, I guess. The competitive modes it does have that sort of flavor, but it seems like some type of co-op campaign or some type of co-op story mode, some type of co-op something would have fit this game like a glove, and it's not there. So I don't think they're working on anything like that, but I could be wrong. I hope they do.
Yeah, me and my expectation was a lot more like, I didn't like Left 4 Dead, like if you played any of the PC or Xbox version of the game, 1 or 2. I liked how it was set up that you had like the survival scenario you had to get to in the exit. But all the videos and rumor talk that I've heard about The Last of Us, I was expecting to be like a hell of a lot more realistic version of the Left 4 Dead, where no, you didn't clear out of these maps in 30 minutes. Like it could take weeks of game time to make it from point A to point B. I thought it was going to be a very immersive co-op experience, and then to hear that it went to competitive edge, it was a little disappointing to me because, I mean, a lot of us, we enjoy the co-op, and you can do both. And I mean, I guess in all reality, the game just come out, they could probably still do both. But I mean, for me, that's why I didn't buy it. As soon as I heard there was no co-op, I didn't want it anymore. But that was just my personal opinion.
They could do what Resident Evil 6 did, where they made, like, Ada, her whole campaign was by herself, and at least patch later where they made it co-op. Like, I wouldn't say do it with the main game, but they already have the season pass out, and it's one of the DLCs is for sure single player, the other two are multiplayer. They could make the multiplayer or the single player one something to do with co-op.
Yeah, I'm thinking they could too, especially since semi-spoiler alert, you're always with somebody in the campaign for The Last of Us. So I don't know. There's always someone there, and it just feels like.
Except for one point, but I don't want to spoil.
All right, please don't, because I'm not there yet.
Mid-game, not end, not beginning.
But it feels like it's. I don't know. It just feels like it's destined to be a co-op game, man. I will say that's one huge disappointment I have.
I don't think this is a spoiler, but something that's really cool is you do get to play as Ellie for one part, and I thought that was a lot of fun. I'm not going to say anything more about it, but it is a lot of fun to do that.
Cool. We're looking out for that. All right. I don't think we need to elaborate any further.
And then the game ends like, I'm just kidding. The ending goes like, here it is.
I want to duck from doing any real spoilers, and we've got reviews coming up for it. We haven't exactly decided how we're going to approach this. I think I'm going to go on record and say that me and Neil are going to go ahead and tag team the multiplayer portion, and I'll just cover the single player with my own review. So I'll be on the lookout for that in the next. God, I almost want to say we have to do this by Friday because of FF14 again, but we'll see. Be on the lookout for it in the next week or so. But I don't know. And it's open up the floor. Those are all the talking points I wanted to cover before we get into our site news. Do any of you guys have any other gaming related shit that you wanted to mention, discuss?
I mean, it's not a big deal, but when XCOM, it's gone free on PSN Plus. I'm not really into. I mean, I don't know if you'd call it a real-time strategy, just a strategy, because stuff's not happening while you're playing. But I'm not into that kind of game. That's the sky view, you know, send them there, send them there. But for some reason, this one, there's a lot of depth to it. I'm sure. I mean, it's older now, and I know probably a good amount of people have already played it. But with it being free, I'm sure more people will pick it up now. I actually find a lot of fun playing it. You can actually customize your units somewhat. You can choose their loadouts, upgrade them, and things like that. Like, they took time to make this. It's almost one of those games I wish I really liked or knew more about before, and I probably would have picked it up back then when it first came out.
Yeah, I knew about it a little bit. I had heard about it in passing, and it sounded like something I might be interested in. And then, like you said, it dropped on PS Plus for free. And of course, being a subscriber, I dove all over that. I lied during my what we've been playing segment. I did play XCOM Enemy Unknown a little bit. Is it Enemy Unknown, or is that the new one coming out? I think it is.
I want to say it's Enemy Unknown.
Yeah, I think it is. So I did pick it up. I put that in. I gotta say, I only played it for about a half an hour, but I really liked what I saw, and I definitely placed that on my queue of things I'll be playing in the coming weeks when this FF14 and The Last of Us insanity passes.
One thing, this is about Last of Us again. One thing I didn't like is there's a trophy, and I get a lot of trophies in games I like too. I don't try to get platinums for all of them, but I try to get one that I think are at least obtainable without spending hours and hours in games. But anyways, once you beat the game on hard, you can start New Game Plus, but you can't start New Game Plus on Survivor. So you have to beat the game on hard, then Survivor Plus just to get all the trophies for beating the game. And I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that 3 times. I would have liked 2. That's usually my kind of average. But anyways, that's the only thing that I a little like about. But otherwise, perfect game.
Right.
With flaws.
Yeah, it does have some flaws. I will say it's not perfect whatsoever. And I think spoiler alert, my score is going to reflect that. But yeah, you get the idea. It's still very good. Hey
man, 98. You know, there's flaws, but it's perfect. I'm not saying, you know, just whatever we give. You give it, I guess. It's still going to be really high, that's for sure. Probably the highest I would think.
Yeah, all right, like I said, I've been so immersed in E3 and all that I haven't really delved into any other gaming-related topics in my brain at all, so I can't come up with anything off the top of my head. Anybody else? Carl, you promised me you'd carry us through this open floor segment.
So what do you want me to talk about a little bit?
Anything relevant that's going on in the world of gaming.
It's a little backdated, but like I said, I got a new gaming rig for my PC or laptop or whatever you want to call it. So I've gotten more immersed into the PC side of games that I've missed out on in like the last 4 to 6 years where I've been out of date. And I spent a lot of time with Spore. Like I mentioned earlier, I did a 19-hour marathon on that so I could get a review out for you guys tomorrow. But, I mean, for me, and I'm going to talk to the other guys, see if they've experienced it, have played it, but it might very well be the first title that gets a perfect score by TRG. And the only reason that I say that is for me as a gamer, it gives me 4 different perspectives. It gives me a third-person shooter, a platformer, a puzzling game, RTS game, and they all have heavy RPG elements on top of it. You can interact with the creatures that you create with other worlds, or other people's worlds can just interact with you directly depending on how you have it set up. And everything that I would want as a gamer, as you give me control to do what I want, like when they say open sandbox, this game doesn't get very more sandbox. Like there's no game that could get more sandbox than this. Maybe Minecraft. But I mean, I can terraform any planet and multiple galaxies in an entire universe into whatever I want it to be. In whatever climate I want, or where I want my guys to colonize. It's really big. It gives a lot of power to the characters. And then another game that I picked up was Terraria, or however you pronounce it.
Terraria, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's one of those. But that game, like for me as an old school gamer, I grew up with Super Nintendo, like Chrono Trigger, Secrets of Mana, Secrets of Evermore, all the games like that. This game plays like the Secrets did back in the old days. You know, you got like a 16-bit character, different kinds of weapons and stuff. And then it's kind of got like a 2D scroller, almost like the Link 2 for the NES, where it was 2D like. But it's very open sandbox. Like you can dig everything, cut everything, use everything you get, and craft stuff like it would almost be like Minecraft. And you still have to survive, but it has like high RPG elements. Like you get more NPCs, which give you more technology, whether it's guns, tools, swords, whatever type of dealer it is, or what type of NPC it is. And you have to build a fort. In every room you build up in a fort, you'll get a different NPC as you add rooms, and they'll show up, and then you can benefit from them. I only spent probably about 4 hours on it with a friend of mine today, and he's got everything, so he spent a lot of time on the game. But just seeing where he spent 60 hours and I've spent 6 hours on the game, you can tell like his investment paid off. But the biggest thing that pulled me into it is an indie game, and that's why the Real Gamers is what we are. We're here to support the underdogs. They're great ideas, but they just really don't get out there. Or like, yeah, we give this game like that 8.5 because it's an indie game, but we won't talk about it anymore. But at least for the PC, 255 players can be in that world at the same time. There's 4 different teams. Me and my buddy were just on the green team together because we're the only 2 in a private world. But I can imagine with the 4 factions, like, yeah, you have a big fortress. You're all trying to survive these zombie attacks, undead attacks, and wildlife attacks throughout the day with your fortress and NPCs. But at that point, do you guys actually start competing? There is PvP in it. You can kill other players, but is that what the teams are for? So it's really cool. Like, in every different world that you open up is a whole different level. Like, you never get the same world twice. It's all user-made and randomly generated. So it's a really cool game, and it's hard for me to believe that it was only $15.99 on PlayStation Store, and they gave it for me for free on Steam because I already bought the PS3 and emailed them about it.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, you were mentioning that off air, how you told them you bought it for the PS3, right?
Yeah.
And then just hit up the developers, I guess, and ask them if you could play it cross-platform, and sure enough, they gave you that code. That was really cool of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, but like I did use, for once, the Real Gamers actually gave me a little pull. But I said, hey, I'm gonna put an article up probably within the week about this, and I wanted to compare the difference between the 2 systems.
Oh, and okay. Oops.
But I mean, yeah. But at the end of the day, like they're a small indie. This is kind of the thing that I want us to get at is we're here to support the indies by putting out information as they see fit. But like for them to be like, oh, cool, they actually checked out the website, saw where we were on Alexa.com, and they gave a little bit of feedback. And that's stuff that I didn't share with you guys earlier. But they were more than happy. They said, yeah, I can see that you guys are getting some attention now, and we're a smaller company. You guys are a smaller website. Sure, why not? And then like the edge right now is leaning towards it's broken the even. Like the PC's better because you can get more players on at a time, but you actually have to connect to an IP address, so that's your personal like your product, your PC's address. It's like, hey, this is my address, man. Where the PlayStation's kind of like it uses the PSN servers or whatever it does use, and it just goes through username and invites.
Yeah, I think on the PSN side, it sounds like it's probably a lot more P2P, like all the other multiplayers out there, where they have their main servers that everybody connects through with their peer-to-peer.
Yeah, so. I think that's what it is.
All right, Jeph, you have any closing thoughts, sir?
Let's see. I'm gonna try to get through that To the Moon indie game actually, because that looks really interesting. Before I start Saint Row, and also my next review I think is actually gonna be the game called Evil Land. Really cool. I actually just recently beat it. I beat it this week. I didn't talk about it in what I was playing this week because I only had the end boss left. I had forgotten about it for a couple months, but I just signed on and beat it the other day. The theme of the game is as you play it, it goes through the history of a bunch of other games like Zelda and Final Fantasy. Like it starts off like a 16-bit that looks like Game Boy, and then you unlock color, and then you eventually unlock 3D, and then you eventually unlock like turn battles, and then you unlock like a Diablo style play, and you just go through various different styles of RPG plays as you go through the game.
That sounds very cool.
It's actually really neat, and it was only $10 on Steam. And I think that's actually going to be my next review. because it was like a really fun game. And then I'm gonna try to get through To the Moon. And if I can end up getting into the alpha for this game called Cube World, I think I showed you guys earlier. My friend Zach let me know about it. I might check that out too. It's like a super free realm open MMO game.
Super free.
Yeah, super open. And you're all made of cubes, so it kind of looks like Minecraft or Legos or something. But you get to customize your dude with, like, you get to customize their weapons. You get different metals to put on that affect it, but you also get to put them on the weapon, so you see it change. And there's different classes, and it has like a third-person action element to it. So I'm gonna try to get into the alpha for that, and it's only made by 2 people. A guy and his wife are the entire development team. So that makes it really interesting to me.
Cool.
Yep, that's all I got on my plate.
All right. I guess we'll get into site news before we close the show. I'll start real quick. I don't know what Carl's got on waiting in the wings exactly, because like I said, I've been investing in other stuff. Blah, redundant. But I will say that once this E3 thing passes, our focus is we're already starting to make the transition. We still want to cover the mainstream stuff and get that stuff out there, but I think now we're getting some of the connections in place to where we can start doing those other than AAA titles. You know, Last of Us does not count. It's sold fantastically. But for example, I'm going to do a double take on Fuse. That's one that I'll say flew under the radar a little bit for good reason. It's not the greatest game ever, but I will be doing a double take on that and reflecting back on how it is a couple months later with considerable playing time in it. But that'll come after I get through The Last of Us and more FF14 beta. Some other things I'm looking at is I'm starting. I'm not so much going to go on the indie side with the mainstream publishers that I've been talking to. They seem really interested in trying to get their other games out there. You know, of course, they have their big blockbuster hits, but the ones that aren't going to be blockbusters, that maybe have a smaller budget, it looks like we're being greenlit for those. So I'll be covering those. So if those things are up your alley and you want to find some gems that are in, hidden amidst all the mainstream coverage, I'll be focusing on that. That is probably going to start next month, I'd say. I'll really start delving into that. And yeah, the site is growing. I want to mention that real quick. I think that's fantastic. E3 has been great for us. We're starting to appear on search engines and stuff for various searches on the stuff that we have covered. So, if you, of course, a month or later from now when we start covering, when we get a lot more coverage of these other than AAA stuff, I don't know what to call them. I want to call them under the radar, so I guess that's just what I'll call them. Once we have more stuff on that, you'll be able to just probably find us on Google too. So really excited about that. We're not slowing down. We're going to keep expanding. We're going to keep going for that audience that we're going for, and hopefully give people some real coverage about video games that real gamers care about. Carl, what do you got waiting in the wings?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much said, we're growing, and that's thanks to everybody that listens to us and reads our articles, obviously. But we're actually less dependent on other websites and just our site pulling up on search engines and stuff. We're actually pulling up on our own. We don't really need shoulders to lean on anymore, which is a great thing. We've grown so much, and when we first started this, I had a 10-start plan, and it sounds very generic and cliche, but we're well ahead of what I had expected. We're within a year to a year and a half of where I expected us to be within 2 months, and that's because you guys have shown interest and you've been there. Very few emails, but we still get emails, and I'll make it a little easier for you to contact us here. I have a lot of things in the work for the website. You'll see a huge difference this week, as in a forum will be implemented probably around Wednesday. We'll need beta testers. If you haven't seen anything with on the bottom of any pages that you're on, we have a flash chat now. Granted that it's not that active, but we usually have anywhere from 16 to 20 people viewing the website at a time. It's just in there for you guys to talk to each other, real gamers to kind of click. We might be on different consoles or have different interests, but at the same time, we're gamers. And I put up an article last week, the top 5 rules to being a real gamer. And we're all fanboys, so we're always really biased about certain subjects and things. But at the same time, I've noticed as a community of gamers that we have the ability to really respect somebody's passion for a title or franchise. whether you like Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Super Mario Brothers, Dynasty Warriors. Although I don't know why you like Dynasty Warriors, because you've been buying the same games since Dynasty Warriors 2. But
they must be Call of Duty fans.
Yeah, something like that. But we're really starting to give you guys more interaction with us as a staff. I mean, granted, we're only just four and a half, because Walter's there, but he just comes out with these really opinionated articles, which is good. That's what we want. Hey, we're regular guys. We have feelings too. He gets that nailed down. But we really want you guys out. Like, if you send questions on that chat and any of us are in there, we'll write them down. If you email any of us, like my email is trgcarl@therealgamers.net. If you have questions, and if it's something that we feel like, hey, we should put this on the podcast, towards the end we'll start getting like answers from the fans or answers from our supporters. And any questions that you have, we'll have answers for you. Don't be afraid to ask. Anything that you want changed about the website, if you think something's ugly, tell me. I'll fix it. I mean, we're all learning here. That's the great thing, is that we're all entry-level people, whether it's graphics, editors, web design, anything like that. We're all learning. And that's the second part that I wanted to talk about, is if you guys think you have something to add to the table, if you just really have a passion for making videos or anything, articles, pictures, whatever it is, if it's video game related and you want to bring it to the table, come to me, come to Matt, come to Neil, Jeph, any of us. All you have to do is email us, and we'll get back to you, because that's what we're here for. Right now, we're a portfolio builder. There's no plan to make a lot of money from therealgamers.net. If it happened, that's great. But what we're here is to get our names out into the industry, and it's good for resumes. I mean, as soon as, like, any person that you apply to write for, they're going to be like, well, where have you written with this type of content? TheRealGamers.net, we're growing so fast that would be great for your resumes. Or same thing with, like, video editing or making videos on YouTube, video commentary. If that's something you want to get into and you're big into games, hit us up. We're not afraid to expand. If you have new ideas, it might just be as simple as, hey, I'm really good at making comics or minis. Like, if you make anything gaming related, we just want to be that site that supports everything that is not AAA, or like, oh, I'm like a 13-year-old kid talking shit on Black Ops 2 and I'm like super competitive and stuff. We're not like that. We're just here gamers. We have a passion for gaming. So if you have anything to bring to us, bring it to us. We're not going to turn you down.
Not outright, anyways. If it's a bad idea, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if they want to make a new banner, go for it.
Hey man, that's right now, until you guys do better. That's me. At least I'm doing something.
Hey, I'm working on it.
No, we've all got stuff we're working on too.
That's the whole entry level thing, though. We're all jacks of all trades, but masters of none.
Right.
So if you're a master of something, so we don't have to be jacks in it, by all means, to be like, hey, I could definitely do this for you. By all means, let me know, and I'll be more than happy to get you involved. Don't expect any type of monetary items, at least for another 6 months, and then after that, it'll probably be more towards software and programs and hardware to get the job done, and then we'll start working from there.
Right. And yeah, just to add to that a little bit, we judging by our growth, and I do have a goal. I would like for this site to make enough money to where we can call it a IGN like, they have their own office and stuff like that. That is our ultimate goal. And so if you want to get in and be a part of that, like Carl was saying, this is a great way. If it doesn't get there, at least you have something to throw on a resume to support your passion. And I think this is supporting all of our passions for video games and whatever else is involved with building the site. So
yeah,
there it is.
Just like proof of resume. As a web designer, and I consider myself an entry web designer. I'm very new to it, but just showing several people, I go through gigs on Craigslist, and I have gotten 4 jobs that have paid well more than it should, but I'm getting paid for something that I love without any type of training, any type of schooling, but I have something to back it up, like, oh, this guy made something, people are interested in it, it has all these features on it, and I want him to make me something like that, and I've done 4 of those. So, I mean, that in itself shows that we have some kind of proof that, like, if you put us down on a resume or, just proof that you know what you're doing, it really does come back. It does pay off.
Yeah. I'll agree. I've gotten there's a few side things that I've been offered myself through what we're doing here. So it does work. You know, you will be able to, if anything, build your experience here and see where it takes you. All right, I think that's enough for side news. I think we are ready to close the show. And I guess we'll just get out of here right now. Carl, take us out.
Keep on gaming, gamers.